This is 5 Live Formula One with Jenny Gow.
Yes, good evening. We have come to Miami and I can't tell you how excited we all are because we've had good races before, we've had spectacular events before, but this is something totally different. Thousands of people have paid thousands of dollars for what is going to be a priceless experience, sitting here watching 20 F1 cars race around the Miami Dolphins Stadium, the Hard Rock Stadium. It's an amazing event. Jack Nicholls, Jolyon Palmer standing by to get our commentary underway. The race begins in 25 minutes. And the championship battle is so brilliantly poised as well. This is round 5 of the 2022 Formula One World Championship. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari leads the way. He has a 27-point advantage over Max Verstappen. And Jack, he'll start in pole position as well.
A Ferrari front row lockout. Leclerc ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz. Verstappen third on the grid with the other Red Bull of Sergio Perez in 4th. Hamilton is 6th, George Russell is 12th. But can Ferrari take yet another victory here? To me, Red Bull need to win. Verstappen needs to win to close that gap at the top of the championship and get his championship fight back on track.
It's a 200-metre sprint down to the first turn. Jolyon, this is a pretty interesting track. It's quirky, isn't it? It's brand new. This is the first time anyone's going to have raced a Formula One car around here. And nobody really knows what to expect.
No, that's the great thing about it, really. It's a step into the unknown. The whole weekend, the whole venue has been full of razzle-dazzle, but now we're into crunch time, the race, where the points are, and the drivers are going to have to learn things on the fly. There's no old races to look through. There's no old strategies to look through. We even didn't have much practice because there was plenty of red flags and incident through the practice sessions on Friday and Saturday. So we don't know how long the tyres can last. Is it going to be a 1-stopper, a 2-stopper, a 3-stopper? It's still scorching hot out there. It's going to be an interesting start, that's for sure.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is really hot, really oppressive. We've had a little bit of rain around as well today, the odd drip down, so we're expecting that could throw something unexpected into the mix as well. And talking about the mix, this grid is slightly ridiculous. It's very busy, and the world celebrities have come out to take a look at Formula One, to experience it, to really soak up the atmosphere. David Beckham is just to my left. Will.i.am is just to my right. I'm just going to try and grab a chat with him. Hey, how you doing?
All right, yourself?
Yeah, really well, thank you. How is this for an event? You've been to F1 before. How does this compare?
This is like one of the most intense, hyper excitement, cultural fusion F1 that I've been to.
It's crazy. Who are you rooting for today?
Of course, Lewis.
Of course, Lewis. Let's hope he gets his championship challenge back on track. Thank you very much. You can hear there's a few microphones, there's a few people around, so it might get a little bit swishy. But the event, Jack, the whole buzz of it, the atmosphere, it's not just here at Miami Gardens, it spreads across the whole of Miami.
Well, I was having breakfast down on South Beach this morning and I didn't actually realise there was a Mercedes F1 demonstration going on. So suddenly this Mercedes F1 car rolled up on Ocean Drive and started driving up and down. It's really amazing to see the effect that Formula One has in America now.
It really
and
is, isn't it?
I think, yeah, it's just phenomenal.
I'm going to go in. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try to, because David Beckham's just to my right. He's just having a chat with the guys from McLaren, so I'm going to see if I can swing round. Oh, he's going to have a chat with Zach Brown. This is bad timing from my point of view as he shakes hands there. McLaren starting, well, a split grid for them, really, because Daniel Ricciardo didn't have a great day, but Lando Norris starts in P8. Let me just run you through the grid. Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, Gasly, Norris, Tsunoda stole the top 10. Then it will be Alonso, Russell, Vettel, Ricciardo, Schumacher, Magnussen, Zhou, Albon, Latifi and Esteban Ocon, who didn't manage to qualify yesterday, unfortunately. Car not able to be recovered. He had a cracked chassis after a crash, so a little bit of a fail there. I'm going to go in for David Beckham, lovely to see you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to... How are you doing? You all right?
I'm very well, and you?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I last had a chat with you. Singapore grid, it's back. Good to have you back in Formula One. What do you make of this experience?
It's amazing, you know, obviously to have the F1 come to Miami, you know, it's a sports town and an entertainment town, and I think, you know, it's going to be an amazing day today.
You brought football here, haven't you, though? What is it like being here? What's the buzz about F1 coming here?
You know, I think the show has done a lot for F1 in the US. But I think, obviously, the F1 coming here, you see the excitement, you see what it's all about, and I think today's going to be an amazing race. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think it's going to be great.
Who are you rooting for today?
I'm just here as an F1 fan, no one in particular. I want them all to do well and be safe.
Have a photo, David.
Sounds like a good idea. This is me, George Russell and David Beckham having a picture. George, get up there. Oh, sorry, I meant to kick him out with my microphone. Right, I'm going to pile out of this mess and get myself a little bit of space. Whew. Well, that was intense, wasn't it? Just here as an F1 fan, and I tell you what, there are a lot of those. The grandstands are packed. Let me see if I can get a bit of a cheer from them. Everybody say hello. Yeah, it kind of worked. Jolien, just the atmosphere here is so crazy. It reminds me of Monaco. How do the drivers kind of cope with this buzz, the celebrity of it all, the razzmatazz, and then refocus?
You've got to take yourself out of it as a driver. This is a Grand Prix. We forget because it's so star-studded. It's such a huge event, as Will.i.am was alluding to. This is a proper show that's going on, and the Americans know how to do it so well. And the first Grand Prix in Miami is an absolute showcase of it. But it is a Grand Prix. There's championship points to be won in a couple of hours' time. The drivers have got to keep cool and focus on what they've got to do. A race starts soon.
One of the interesting things is that Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, the two Aston Martin drivers, will be starting from the pit lane. So that's a little bit curious because Stroll was 10th on the grid, Vettel 13th. So it was going to be a reasonable performance from them, but they'll have to work through from the back. But what can the Ferraris do from the front? That's the interesting point.
Yeah, that is a good question. Juan Martín Del Potro is just alongside me now. He must be an Uber fan because he's been here all weekend, tennis player, of course. You must be a big fan. You've spent the entire weekend here.
Yeah, I'm so fan of this car. The drivers are amazing. I'm so excited to see this race. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for them, but we will see.
It's always intriguing to me how other sportsmen kind of soak up this atmosphere, what they make of it. Is there anything you can equate this to in your career?
Well, I know some drivers. We know each other with Checo Perez, with Carlos Sainz, so we like to share experience between the sports. But this sport is amazing, and this particularly Grand Prix is so big. Yeah.
Who do you think is going to win today?
Oh, I would like to take Checo as Latin American people, but maybe Ferrari, I think they have the chance.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. I tell you what, if Perez were to win, everything would go off the absolutely crazy because he's so well liked here. There's a huge Latin community here. The stands are packed and there's a few flags flying around. I'm just going to see if I can grab a sec with Christian Horner, Red Bull team principal. Christian, starting P3 for Max with Perez alongside him. That could be pretty useful for you guys going down into the first turn.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because there's a clean side and a dirty side of the grid here, and you know, we need to get a good start. I mean, Max hasn't done a start all weekend, so that's kind of tough for him, but you know, hopefully we can get off the line okay.
And when it comes to the championship, obviously he's 27 points down, and reliability has been a bit of a bugbear for you guys. Are you on top of it? You happy with the car?
I hope so. I mean, thank you for reminding me of that, but you know, Friday was a difficult day for us. I hope that you know, we got our bad luck out the way on Friday, so yeah, we just need a good clean race today, and it's going to be tricky. The conditions are tough. Maybe even some rain about later on.
I know. It's already rained a little bit. Thank you so much, Christian. I'll let you get back to work. He's standing just next to Max Verstappen's car. He starts P3. And, Jack, there was some talk that actually starting in third could be a pretty good place to begin this race if you couldn't get on pole.
Well, yeah, exactly. Maybe starting from third is better than starting from second because you're on the cleaner side of the grid. They actually cleaned the track a little differently last night, and watching the W Series races earlier on, it looked a little less dirty offline than it did the day before. Now, whether that's going to be hugely impactful, we'll have to wait and see. But I feel like quite often we see, oh, second on the grid isn't a good place to start. And actually, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. This track is a bit dirtier offline because it's a street circuit, but it kind of feels like a thing we say a lot, but doesn't actually happen in actuality.
It did last time, though, didn't it? Leclerc plummeted down the order from the front row when it was slightly damp. And the driver's been very critical of the track surface here. It's been very slippery offline. We've seen a few incidents. Max Verstappen caught himself out in qualifying at the end of Q3 yesterday as well. So that, I think, will help those on the racing line to start. And then overtaking is going to be particularly tricky because of the slipperiness offline.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's going to be fascinating. They're saying it could be a one-stop, could be a two-stop. There's so much information that isn't really known yet. But I tell you what is known, this event has been spectacular so far. Everyone's hoping for a great race. And the crowd gets to their feet. They all wave because it's going to be time for the national anthem. One of those key moments of the race weekend, the American national anthem, on its way for you. Let's have a listen to Louis Fonsi.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Let's go!
Let's go! Absolutely. Louis Fonsi with the national anthem. The Puerto Rican, you might know him, Despacito, one of his biggest hits, and a beautiful rendition as the United States flag just ripples in the light breeze, the clouds just coming over our heads a little bit, which just cools everything down for a moment, and we'll try and cool things down for a moment as well. Jack Nicholls, the event we've spoken about, but let's speak about the significance of this race for the championship, because there are a few drivers that really need a decent weekend, as Valtteri Bottas just walks past me. He's had a good weekend so far, but Sainz needs a good weekend. Verstappen would dearly love to claw some points back on Leclerc as well.
So Verstappen has either won or retired during the course of the season so far. Retired in Bahrain, won in Saudi Arabia, retired in Australia, won in Imola. What way is that sequence going to go this afternoon? Because that's going to be really, really interesting. Carlos Sainz, as you say, retired in the last 2 Grand Prix, so he needs to pick up the pace a little bit more. But it's just strategically going to be interesting with what Verstappen and Perez can do about the Ferraris in front of them. And if Verstappen gets Carlos Sainz at the start, as you were alluding to earlier, starting 3rd on the grid, he's got a real shot of winning this Grand Prix. And we've seen so many times this season, you never really know who's going to win the race.
Max Verstappen just standing to my right as his race engineer goes towards him for a little chat. Just a final couple of notes to go through, a conversation. Max is actually wearing an ice vest, which is exposed so you can see all the little cubes. A little bit like if you've got one of those frozen ice tray bags that you fill up with water, and he's got one of those on his front and one of those on his back. It's excruciatingly warm down here, and it's going to be pretty physical as well for the drivers, Jack. I think this is going to be, I think Lewis Hamilton said, didn't he, it was the 3rd hottest race weekend he'd ever been to, behind Malaysia and Singapore. We
were walking just to the commentary box a moment ago, Jolien and I, and he was absolutely drenched in sweat, a picture of unhealthiness. And he was saying, this is actually going to be really tough, weren't you?
In my T-shirt and shorts.
Yeah.
It's going to be so tough for the drivers, this. I can't remember the last time we had a race in these conditions. We talk about, okay, Malaysia was notoriously hot, but apart from that, the other hot ones, even Singapore, is so hot and humid, but it's a night race. The Middle Eastern races, they're really hot. They're night races. The sun's out. It's absolutely scorching, 32 degrees. It's the coolest it's been all week, but it's still really hot. The drivers have all got ice vests around them. They work miracles at this time because otherwise you are just sweating it out.
Yeah.
And they've got to be strapped in for an hour and a half.
So hot. I'm just next to the Venus and Serena Williams. I just wanted to come and say hi. How are you enjoying your time here?
I'm enjoying it here. Yeah.
It's really hot, isn't it? It's oppressive heat. Who are you rooting for today?
Lewis.
Of course, it's Lewis. Thank you so much. Right, all the celebrities are now making their way off the track, so they're trying to get past me at the moment. I'm really quite in the way and trying to get out the way. So they're trying to clear the track. I know they are. I'm trying to get out the way for them. How long until this race gets underway? We have about 11 minutes until we get this started. And the tension is building now. The celebrities getting shuffled off the track, which means we'll have a little bit more space and hopefully we'll get things on track. And right next to Charles Leclerc. He is not in the car yet. They're leaving it as late as possible. Jolyon, just tell me, how physically tough is this race going to be? We don't know because we've not driven here before, but what are your expectations?
Well, it's going to be tough because the heat I just mentioned, really. Everyone with their ice vests on now, the cool vests, trying to wait as late as they can to get in the car. But then they've got to get in, and it's going to be a real sweat fest for them in the cockpit. For an hour and a half, at least, they won't feel it whilst they're at racing speed so much, but they've got to keep hydrated. They can have a litre of liquid in the car, which they'll probably get through pretty quickly. and this is why you do the training as a Formula One driver. They look like they've done a Grand Prix when they got out of qualifying yesterday, some of them.
A fuel temperature problem for Aston Martin. A fuel temperature problem. I don't really know what that... I don't know. I can't quite work out what that could be, but that's why they're both in the garage, and that's what they're trying to work to fix.
And reliability could be a concern for others. Okay, fuel temperature problem, that's a very rare problem to have.
Because you don't want fuel too hot. Even I know that.
And so maybe that's the issue then for Aston Martin. And they've got to try and sort that out to even start the race. But other components, they're going to be just in overdrive. The cooling of these cars, the brakes, the engines, the gearboxes is all going to be really required in this hour and a half. It's not just the drivers that are going to be put to the test, but the cars as well.
OK, so Charles Leclerc just giving one of his mechanics a final handshake. He's just about to get in. His number 16 helmet, red and white, just getting on and, as I said, getting into the car. On the other side, Carlos Sainz now climbs up and over the halo and into his car. Max Verstappen, very cool, calm and collected to my right. An umbrella just covering the monitor, and he's just putting on his balaclava now, so quite late to get into the car, and it's uncomfortably warm, so you can understand that. Then we've got Perez on my left as I walk down. 7 metres, the gaps in between these grid slots. Then it's Valtteri Bottas in 5th, and in 6th place, just behind his former teammate, it's Lewis Hamilton and George Russell down in 12th position. And we should talk about Mercedes, really, because they found a little bit of form. George Russell topping 3rd practice, and then it seemed to go away.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Well, it looked as though when Russell was quickest in FP2 on Friday that they'd fixed it, and maybe they were back in the fight, and then they ended up basically where they were today, where they have been all season. I'm particularly interested to watch Hamilton today, because he's been a little bit lackluster is harsh, but hasn't made the progress through the field in the last couple of races, in particular Imola, that maybe we would have liked to have seen, or the team would have liked to have seen, or maybe he would have liked to have seen. But starting 6th on the grid, how feisty is he going to be with Valtteri Bottas? Can he go forward on the opening lap for a few places? Can he get involved with Sergio Perez? Because traditionally the Mercedes this year has been a bit better in the race than in qualifying. I think there's a few questions about how Hamilton will perform today.
But for all the promise that Mercedes has shown, this is round 5 and it's Hamilton's 3rd best qualifying. Twice already this year he's qualified 5th. He's 6th. He's behind his former teammate in an Alfa Romeo. They disappointed yesterday, Mercedes. They flattered to deceive on Friday. Russell topped the times, then was dumped out in Q2 and starts 12th. I'm sure Russell could charge through. He looked like he had a lot of pace and on Friday, and even at times on Saturday, but didn't hook it up in qualifying. But what about Hamilton? He should be quicker than Bottas in that fight. The Mercedes, as you say, Jack, has got better race pace than quali pace, but they are not the front runner yet that we thought they might be from Friday's performance. In fact, this is an absolutely run-of-the-mill for this season for them.
Yeah, just walking further down, and of course you've got the big empty grid slot where an Aston Martin should be. and there's no one there. And George Russell directly behind that, it has a great chance of having a good start because he can just power down. Does it make a difference? Is it easier if you don't have a car right in front of you like normal?
Absolutely, yeah. You've got a clear grid slot to try and aim your car into, especially when you're in the midfield. Russell's 12th, and Lance Stroll actually did a good job in the Aston Martin to start 10th. He's in the pit lane, so he's not starting 10th after all, which means Russell starts 12th. He's got Alonso then to his left-hand side, and then a clear spot that he can try and accelerate into if he gets a good start, and effectively occupy what Stroll was in, which was 10th place. So it gives him a chance, and obviously takes out one of the cars ahead of him as well.
Crowd just cheering away as I make my way further back. Haas hoping for a decent weekend in front of their home crowd, and they've been looking really positive so far this season. Mick Schumacher obviously qualifying down in 15th place, and we've already spoken a little bit about Magnussen, but he's not seemed on form this weekend yet.
No, didn't get out of the first part of quali, but if Haas can pick up some points, then they'll be pretty pleased with that, I think. 15th and 16th, it's ambitious, but obviously that's already 13th and 14th, so that's been made a little bit more easier for them.
I think I can feel a couple of spots of rain.
Well, the official risk of rain for the session is 40%, but I was talking to a chap who lives here, and he was saying it just, the rainstorms come out of nowhere. It's not like they come in from the left and then they do, sometimes they do, but sometimes they just like pop up and then it rains.
But it's interesting because when it rains, it can rain, proper rain, enough to wet the track, not just a few spots of drizzle that we're so used to. But then because of the heat, it just dries up so quickly as well. So it's not like a rain to go to intermediates, but it's a rain to be slippery for a little bit, but survive it and not have to change off slicks. Otherwise, you'll be in for 2 stops.
Like when you spray your iron. You spray your iron and then you go over that wet bit with the iron, it just goes, and then it's dry again. You don't iron, do you?
No, I do, yeah, that's a perfect technique, well explained.
I love your ironing, chat. We should do more of that. Maybe not now, though. 5 minutes to go until the start of this Miami Grand Prix. The buzz, the hype. Let's hope the race lives up to all of it, because so far this weekend has been absolutely incredible. And I just want to say, we've had races in America before. We've spoken about the significance of racing in America, of capturing this market, but it really seems like 2 races on the calendar now, 3 next year. America is sold on F1.
Yeah, if everybody comes back next year, then it is.
Are you coming back next year?
I'd be up for it. It's also my job, so there's that. But yeah, I think it still remains to be seen. I mean, it's a huge success up until now. We'll see whether the race delivers and what kind of interest it generates, because it is a huge market that Formula One are trying to conquer.
Certainly is. The American flag just rippling to my right as the celebrities make their way off the grid towards their lounges, where they'll have a nice cool beverage waiting for them, and they will watch this race get underway. It is Charles Leclerc on pole, then Carlos Sainz, Verstappen and Perez. Does Verstappen need to really challenge at this beginning to get it done? We're thinking overtaking is going to be pretty tough, so the start, a golden opportunity for him.
I always say, for anyone that's not on a front row lockout, so Verstappen's got 2 Ferraris ahead of him, he's got to split them at the start. Otherwise, the 2 Ferraris have such a strategic advantage. They can cover off Verstappen's undercut threat, which will no doubt happen with Carlos Sainz or Charles Leclerc if they wish, and there will be an extra buffer having the second Ferrari there as well. If Verstappen wants to challenge, it could well be a 1-stop race. It might just go to a 2-stop because of the temperatures. But if Verstappen wants to challenge, then I think he's going to have to try and make a place at the start. But it's going to be tricky because it's so slippery offline.
And Jolien, what about DRS? Because we've got 3 of them, and we've seen this year that it can be a little bit cat and mouse, can't it, between Leclerc and Verstappen? Would we expect the same here again?
Tough to know, because there's absolutely no historical precedent for anything here. Of course, we saw it in Jeddah, a little bit in Bahrain, Leclerc being clever, trying to get the DRS and let Verstappen pass and repass him. Max will be wise to that as well now. So if Leclerc does it once, Max will make sure he doesn't do it again. I think that the DRS zones are easily the best chance of overtaking, just basically on the straight, because offline is so dirty. There are 3 of them, and the straights are so long. So if you can stay within a second, the DRS has been powerful, there's going to be chances to overtake. I
think the other part is that the straights, okay, the main back straight and then the start straight are right together. But the issue you had in Jeddah was that because there were 2 DRS straights right together, you could close up to the back and then into a heavy braking zone, kind of mess around to try and be overtaken or not, because there was an overtake happening and you could bail out of that. Here, the detection point before the sort of main long back straight is around a tight, twisty sequence of corners where you can't really start to play chicken round.
You can't go side by side at all through
exactly.
that section. That's the bit that breaks up the two main straights. So yeah, 11 to 16, where we've seen most of the incident through the weekend so far. That's going to be one by one, but it does splinter the two main straights. So it's a good point, Jack.
Thank you.
Well done. Really long straights here, 1.25 kilometres, a little bit like Shanghai maybe. Some have described it a little bit like Valencia, the speeds sometimes of Saudi Arabia. So there's plenty of excitement. I tell you what, this track is amazing. There are swimming pools, there's a beach club, there's little gondolas that you can get in to watch the race. There's so much hype going on. The podium is incredible, but the racing is what matters. The championship is what is being defined this year. 27 points the gap between Leclerc and Verstappen. What will happen in the first ever Miami Grand Prix? Let's find out.
Cars are on the grid. The mechanics have mostly left. Everybody in the main grandstand is standing with their arms aloft, holding their smartphones and filming the start of the formation lap for the first ever Miami Grand Prix. You can hear the fans cheering in the grandstands. Everybody's going to be starting on the medium tyres, bar Russell in 12th, Latifi 19th and Ocon in 20th, and the two Aston Martins in the pit lane. But 57 laps of racing in the 5th round of the Formula One World Championship of 2022 about to get underway. It's 8:30 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. This, the first ever Miami Grand Prix. The cars making their way around on the formation lap, and this is how the grid will line up. It is Charles Leclerc on pole position for Ferrari, Carlos Sainz alongside him on the front row. Verstappen, Perez and Bottas the top 5, with Lewis Hamilton in 6th. Gasly, Norris, Tsunoda, the top 9 on the grid. Lance Stroll should be 10th, but he's starting from the pits. Alonso is 11th, Russell is 12th. Vettel also starting from the pits. 14th is Ricciardo, 15th is Schumacher, Magnussen, Zhou, Albon, Latifi and Ocon, the 20 drivers. Now, George Russell there, Jolene, looked a little bit slow to get away from the grid, and then everybody was kind of backed up behind him also once he finally got away. I think he is moving around the track now, so not too much drama in the end, but it was a bit of an odd one.
I think it was just our camera angle, wasn't it? I think we just didn't have the other cars in front of him on his side of the grid in shot, so it looked like he should be going, and then when it was his turn to go, he went. He's all okay now. The driver's now halfway around the lap already. Tyre warm-up important on the mediums, but then again it's beltingly hot, so it's not going to be as critical as it was last time out at Imola. Just keep it on the cleaner part of the track now. Don't get the dust on your tyres. Try and stay as long as you can on the clean side, and then for those on the even side of the grid, they've got to peel off to the inside and try and work out how they're going to get a good start from there.
The main overtaking points, the main action zones on the circuit are going to be down into the left-hander of turn 11, then into the left-hander of turn 16, and then possibly down into turn 1. They're being really aggressive with the weaving down the back straight there. I don't think I've seen it quite so aggressive before. Verstappen in particular, chucking the car around.
The start's going to be crucial, always. The front tyres then get the most from the weaving. It's a very short run down to turn 1. Very short run down to turn 1, almost Monaco-esque. And actually the start-finish straight isn't long in general anyway. So just getting that grip off the line, the clutch bite point, getting the clutch drop perfectly, accelerating on, and the reaction time is all going to be crucial, because there's not a huge run to make amends if you get a bad start.
Hashtag BBC F1 on Twitter, f1@bbc.co.uk, on the email if you want to get in touch over the course of this Grand Prix, which will last for about an hour and a half, I would have thought. And the Ferraris now lining up, locking out the front row of the grid, Jenny Gow.
Yeah, and just having a look at the grid, it's expected that those starting on the even numbers might struggle more than those starting on an odd number. Hamilton, for your reference, starts on an even P6.
Charles Leclerc on pole position for Ferrari, the championship leader. If it finishes like this, he would extend his lead at the championship by 10 points to Max Verstappen. It already sits at 27. The final car lines up on the grid now. Leclerc on pole, Sainz second, Max Verstappen is third. Hamilton's down in 6th, Norris 8th, Russell 12th. Here come the lights. The first ever Miami Grand Prix gets underway, and it's a very good start from Charles Leclerc, and Verstappen is coming with him to try and get into second place, but Sainz has the inside line covered. Verstappen goes to the outside of the first corner, and he's up into second place. Brilliant move from Verstappen. Leclerc leads, Verstappen into second, Sainz is third, Perez fourth, Bottas fifth. Hamilton has lost 2 places. He's lost out to the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly and the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. Then in behind him is Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda is getting involved in the fight, but I think he's shuffled back a little bit. But the perfect start for Max Verstappen, exactly what he wanted to do. He's got up into second place now and will start to try and chase down Charles Leclerc, although Carlos Sainz is right behind him as they come towards turn 11. Leclerc in the Scarlet Ferrari up to 200 miles an hour, gets on the brakes, and he is holding the lead. Verstappen into second place. That's exactly what he wanted.
And it was really good stuff from Verstappen as well. It wasn't just on the start. Sainz had a decent enough start from the inside, but Verstappen held it around the outside, offline, on the dirtier part, and that gave him the inside for turn 2, the left-hander. He muscled his way through into second place. He knew the importance of that, and he got it right. He split the Ferraris, and now we got a race on. Where did Fernando Alonso come from? Outside of the top 10, ahead of Lewis Hamilton now into 7th. Great start from him as well.
Yeah, Hamilton lost 2 places at the start. They're coming down now towards the hairpin left-hander at turn 17. They get on the brakes again from 200 miles an hour into the left-hander, and then back on the power and out over the start-finish straight to complete lap 1. George Russell is down in 15th place, so both Mercedes struggling. Russell did start on the hard tyres, so that would have given him a little bit less grip at the start. But at the end of the first lap, Charles Leclerc leads, Max Verstappen second, Carlos Sainz third, the Red Bull of Perez is fourth, the Alfa Romeo of Bottas is fifth, the AlphaTauri of Gasly is in 6th position, Alonso is 7th, 8th is Hamilton, 9th Norris, 10th Tsunoda, and then it's Ricciardo, Schumacher, Magnussen, Joe, Russell the top 15, Albon, Latifi, Ocon, Stroll and Vettel, the 20 drivers.
Bit of squabbling further back in towards turn 1, still no DRS for the moment. Verstappen has managed to just stem that flow then. He got ahead of Sainz, Leclerc made a mini break, Sainz tried to get back at turn 11, and now they're all equidistant. 8 tenths between the top 2, 8 tenths between second and third. Verstappen has stabilised in that position, and he's still got Sergio Perez, his teammate, in 4th place as well to keep Sainz honest. This is how we saw the start of the season go. The 2 team leaders, Leclerc and Verstappen, and then Sainz and Perez, a bit like Bahrain. Can Sainz and Perez stay with the top 2 in this race, though, and really feature in terms of a race win, which they haven't done so far this year?
There's 1 second between them all, as you say, at the moment. Mick Schumacher's just got ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in the Haas, so that's a nice move from Schumacher. The McLaren of Ricciardo dropping down into 12th position. Hamilton is fairly close to the back of Fernando Alonso as they come out onto the back straight. No DRS, as Jolyon says. That'll open on the next lap, and they can open the flap in the rear wing, the drag reduction system, and if they're within a second of the car in front, have a go at overtaking. But at the moment, they're all fairly equidistant. Russell is having to fight really hard here, defending from Alex Albon. Albon, the man who replaced him at Williams after Russell decided to move to Mercedes, and Albon is right on the back of him here. He's on the hard tyres, Russell, but I'm surprised quite the lack of pace that he's having at the moment. But that's the battle down in 15th position. Verstappen at the moment 1 second behind Charles Leclerc, so he's just outside DRS range as it stands.
Russell, I think, had to defend from Alex Albon then into the first corner as well. His former car down in 15th to 16th. He's lost places, but he was on the hard tyre to start, so that would kind of explain a little bit of the lack of performance. But it's a pretty tough start there for George Russell. Started in effectively 11th with Stroll out the way. Hamilton's quick here. This is the sound of him on board in 8th, and he's looking at the back of Fernando Alonso.
Coming down to turn 11, Fernando Alonso in the blue Alpine. Hamilton goes to the inside and he makes the pass. So Hamilton up into 7th place, moves back over onto the racing line, gets on the brakes into turn 11, and he is through. Verstappen is just outside of Leclerc's DRS range at the moment. Ricciardo's now lost out to the other Haas of Kevin Magnussen, so the McLaren slides down to 13th place. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just having a look at starting tyres and what we're expecting. So they're thinking it was a one-stop race potentially too. Those starting on the hards, Stroll and Vettel from the pit lane, and then Russell. You've also got Latifi and Ocon out there on the hards. And everyone's going to be looking at those hard tyres. How long will they last? What will they do? How good is the pace? They didn't look great yesterday, but people don't have the information they needed really ahead of this race to make the call. So a lot of learning going on out there right now from each of the teams, looking at other teams as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's they're going to be the sort of guinea pigs, those drivers on the hard tyres, to see how long they can go. It looked like the problem for Sainz was he was behind his teammate Leclerc. He sort of moved into the inside behind Leclerc, and so therefore had to brake when Leclerc braked, and Verstappen kind of had a sort of open goal around the outside.
That's what happened in Jeddah as well.
Simple, but you know.
He still had to do well, didn't he, Verstappen? This is the sound of the replay of his start then. Decent enough drive as he released the clutch. Then he's got a lot of work to do still to pass Sainz. And Sainz, he is just a little bit boxed in behind Leclerc. It's exactly what allowed Max to pass Carlos Sainz in Jeddah. And the Red Bull crowd enjoyed that one. Fernando Alonso had a similar sort of move right around the outside of 3 cars. And I think he might have even touched Lewis Hamilton with a pretty bold stick of the nose in at turn 2. So that's why Fernando Alonso jumped up all those places.
I've been hit from behind. So I don't think we've suffered any damage.
So that was Hamilton we were hearing from there, getting hit by Alonso. Basically, Hamilton got a decent start, went to the inside, but just sort of had nowhere to go. Almost went into the back of Perez, and then got overtaken around the outside. It was a bit of a brave one from Alonso, and didn't manage to, well, he managed to pull it off, but could have lost his front wing quite easily.
He is lucky that they got away with that, both of them, and managed to maintain the position. In fact, Hamilton now ahead of Alonso, because that was Alonso. He had no right to be sticking a nose in at the inside of turn 2. Just tagged Hamilton. Hamilton had to catch the oversteer moment, and it allowed the Alpine through. But yeah, Alonso passed a couple of cars and then was a little bit over-exuberant with that one. Got away with it. Neither of them had damage.
Race lead in the Miami Grand Prix on lap 5 of 57 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. It's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. He's 1.3 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen at the moment. They're looping past the fake marina at turn 8, where they've shipped in a load of yachts and put them on some blue cardboard. And I'm doing a disservice. It looks quite cool. I haven't described it in a very cool way, but that's where they were coming through there. And now they're coming down to the fake beach club on the right-hand side as they come through turn 12. It's 1.3 seconds the gap for the lead. Verstappen set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap, but both Leclerc and Verstappen were 0.7 of a second quicker on that one lap than Carlos Sainz.
I definitely feel like I got some damage in the left rear.
Okay, copy. We're looking into it. Nothing on data at the moment.
Oh, lock up from Hamilton as he came up into the chicane. He's saying he feels like he's definitely got some damage on the left rear, but the team's saying he doesn't. He's up behind Pierre Gasly now, and he should be able to get past the Frenchman here in the AlphaTauri. Gasly running in 6th place. Hamilton has got past Alonso, and now coming down into turn 17. Is he going to get past Gasly? The AlphaTauri is quick in a straight line there, isn't it? So we saw that in... where was the last race? Imola? Where, yeah, because it was Hamilton was queued up behind the AlphaTauri in another car, and the AlphaTauri at the head of the queue was able to stay there fairly comfortably. Hamilton does now get the move done into turn 1. So Lewis Hamilton up into 6th place, Gasly down to 7th, Alonso 8th, Norris 9th, Tsunoda 10th. The top 4 still Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez.
Concerned about some damage to the left rear, but he's looking racy, is Lewis Hamilton. Already back into 6th place, then that's where he started, having lost places to Alonso and Gasly on the first lap. Next up is Valtteri Bottas, who's still in 5th in the Alfa Romeo, and Hamilton is the man on the move, isn't he? He's the man putting the moves in the top 10, and he looks like he's got some pace in that Mercedes.
So Mercedes running 6th and 15th at the moment. Magnussen's just got ahead of Russell and up into 11th place, but Hamilton now on the charge to catch Bottas, Jenny.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering that Mercedes have bought the first real upgrade this weekend to their car. So they've got a new front wing, a new rear wing, a new beam wing as well. All these little bits trying to reduce the drag of the car so that they can improve the pace and give Lewis Hamilton and George Russell a car that they think their drivers deserve. Last time out, remember Toto Wolff saying the car was undrivable and apologising to Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis ruling himself out of the championship at round 4. So Mercedes need to improve. It looked like they had points this weekend and then not in qualifying, but let's see what this delivers when we get down to the race right now.
Zhou Guanyu is the next driver to have got past Daniel Ricciardo. Hamilton's still under pressure from Pierre Gasly. He's got into 6th place, but Gasly's still right there. So is Fernando Alonso behind. Zhou got ahead of Ricciardo and then suddenly has dropped down to 17th place now. So some are now 18th place. So Zhou in a bit of trouble. Maybe some damage out there for the Chinese driver in the Alfa Romeo, because he is plummeting down the order, and I wouldn't be surprised if he comes past us and into the pit lane in a moment. Lap 7 of 57. Leclerc's lead is 1.4 seconds still, as into the pits now comes Zhou Guanyu. Couldn't quite see what was wrong with the car, but I imagine maybe a bit of a front wing damage or something, but we'll wait and see. Gasly is now trying to hold off Alonso because Hamilton suddenly has managed to sprint clear.
Well, the AlphaTauri's got tremendous straight line speed. He just attacked again the Mercedes.
Sure, we have to stop. Oh, Vettel, I can't believe it.
So it sounds like a mechanical problem for Zhou Guanyu. He says he can't believe it. He was running quite well. Alonso almost going into the back of Pierre Gasly down into turn 11. So late on the brakes. These two fighting over 7th position. Zhou is getting wheeled back into the garage. And this is going to be a big opportunity for Alonso this time down the back straight towards turn 17. And Gasly's going to be in a bit of trouble. They come underneath the overhanging trees that have to be marshalled the other side of the barriers to not let iguanas get in and up them, because otherwise they might fall out of the trees and onto the racetrack, because apparently iguana dropping is a thing. Big lockup from Hamilton at turn 17. Alonso didn't manage to get ahead of Gasly, but Hamilton went in very, very deep, maybe even snatched the front left a little bit, and as a result loses a bit of time. Here's Verstappen's radio.
Can start to see some damage perhaps to Leclerc's front right tyre.
So Verstappen being told we can see some damage to Leclerc's front right tyre, and Verstappen all of a sudden is now within a second of Charles Leclerc.
And we have got 2 by 2 at the front, as we had earlier on in the season. Leclerc just 8 tenths ahead of Verstappen that last time through. And Max now being told that there's some damage to the race leader's front tyres. He's going to smell blood now, and a chance to take this fight to the championship leader, Charles Leclerc. Further back, Sainz, he's just watching. He's 3.5 seconds behind Verstappen, but at the moment not able to be in that fight. And in fact, he's got Sergio Perez just 1 second back from him. So it's one Ferrari with the Red Bull in the mirrors, then a bit of a gap, and another Ferrari, Carlos Sainz, with Sergio Perez in his mirrors.
The battle heating up at the front here. Leclerc versus Verstappen. Man City kept the pressure up on Liverpool by winning 5-0 against Newcastle earlier on today. West Ham beat Norwich 4-0. Everton 2-1 winners away at Leicester. A huge win for them in their fight to avoid relegation, and helped by Arsenal beating Leeds 2-1 earlier on today. This is the Miami Grand Prix here around the Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Dolphins, and Charles Leclerc's got a big twitch coming out of turn 17. This is Max Verstappen's chance to take the lead of the Miami Grand Prix. Leclerc doesn't cover the inside. Verstappen has an open door. He goes to the inside and takes the lead of the race in Florida. Leclerc tries to get the switch back, but it's not going to be enough. Now he'll have to try and sit in behind the Red Bull for the next few corners and try and fight back. But is he going to have the grip in those tyres? Because it looks as though Verstappen has the advantage at the moment, and Leclerc didn't make it particularly difficult for him.
He made it very easy. Stayed on the racing line. Verstappen straight to the inside for the lead of the race against the championship leader. They are probably championship rivals this year, and Leclerc with no defence whatsoever. And it wasn't even as if there was a DRS detection line coming up, which he sometimes likes to hold back for. He just allowed Verstappen the inside line, and Max said thanks very much into the lead of the race. The Ferrari's struggling.
But Leclerc's coming back at him down into turn 11. He's not close enough, but Verstappen goes in very, very deep. They now come through the long left-hander into turn 12, into the tight, twisty part of the circuit, up through the little chicane where Leclerc had a moment over the course of the weekend. I think Verstappen did as well, actually. A really challenging part of the course. They make it through safely this time. Back on the power, and Leclerc is possibly a little bit too far back now. He's going to get the DRS coming into turn 17. Verstappen leads the Grand Prix, lap 9 of 57, but the Ferrari is closing as they hit over 200 miles an hour onto the brakes into the hairpin left, and Verstappen holds it for the time being. So Max Verstappen in the Red Bull started third on the grid and is now in the lead of the Miami Grand Prix. Leclerc is not going to be close enough to try and get back at him. So What happens now in terms of strategy? That's going to be the question.
Well, I wondered if Leclerc just absolutely butchered his tyres and had to come in for a stop. But the way that he managed to take the fight back to Verstappen indicated it was not all lost on the tyre front. He's still within DRS range as they come into turn 4, the left-hander. Then into 5, the right. Then they're going to go into a long left, 6, 7 and then 8. And then there's going to be some more DRS action. So Leclerc can stay with Verstappen if he's got anything left in the tyres, and it's just role reversal. But it only took 9 laps then for Verstappen to go from 3rd to 2nd in one corner and then take the lead of the race. And Sainz is now starting to come back towards his teammate as well.
Yeah, just having a look at strategies. We're on lap 10, and we're looking at pit window opening at lap 12. That was the expected one if you're going to do a 2-stop, and that's what Pirelli reckon this circuit is going to deliver, a 2-stop race. So let's see if they come in the next couple of laps.
Okay, so yeah, whether it's a 2-stop or a 1-stop, we'll have to wait and see. Can Ferrari pit Leclerc here and undercut Verstappen if we're that close to pit sort of window territory?
That's exactly what they'll be looking to do now. Leclerc has just dropped, in fact, outside of the 1 second margin to Verstappen. So he had DRS into 11. Verstappen was quick through the fiddly bit, and now he can just stretch his legs, and Leclerc doesn't have DRS down the back straight. This is the chance for Verstappen to get away. But you're right, Leclerc now's got to look to undercut, go for a new set of tyres and maybe do some damage in the pit lane. If he pitted now, he's going to come out right in a melee of Lando Norris and the 2 Haas cars, so there's going to be a lot of traffic. No one has pitted yet. Yeah, that's the problem. There's no gap for them to pit into. Daniel Ricciardo has just sent one up the inside into turn 1. That's a nice old-fashioned Ricciardo manoeuvre that was. A long, long way back, sent it in, and through he goes. So Verstappen leads the Grand Prix here in Miami. Charles Leclerc is 1.4 seconds back from Verstappen. This will close the gap at the championship, not hugely, but down to 20 points from 27, depending on who ended up getting the fastest lap. Sainz is 3rd, Perez is 4th, and Perez is not within the DRS range of Sainz just yet, the Ferrari ahead of the Red Bull. Bottas is 5th for Alfa Romeo, then it's 3.4 seconds back to Hamilton in 6th.
We are extending this stint as much as we can.
Okay, so that suggests to me that Ferrari are aiming for a 1-stop race. If they're extending this stint, i.e. the first set of tyres, as much as possible, that's because they worry if they pitted now, they would have to pit again later in the race. That would be my suggestion, Jenny.
Could be, or it could be that they're playing games again. We've heard a couple of times this season Ferrari using the radio to try and act as a decoy and say exactly the opposite of what they're actually going to do. So are they telling the truth, or are they trying to, you know, make Red Bull do something different? I don't know. Could be. Either way.
Bear in mind that's Sainz's radio. That's not Leclerc's radio. So Sainz is in 3rd. They might be trying to do something different across the 2 cars as well. Leclerc is just still drifting away from Max Verstappen. They come through past us now to start a new lap. 1 minute 34.4 for Verstappen, 34.6 for Leclerc. So we're only 2 tenths down on that lap. He's still 1.5 seconds away and within DRS range at the moment.
George Russell is trying to get past Yuki Tsunoda. They're fighting it out over 13th and 14th. The 2 Hasses have just swapped places. Magnussen up into 10th. Mick Schumacher now into 11th, but points we were talking about earlier on potentially there. Into the pits comes Yuki Tsunoda, so he's the first of our pit stoppers, the Japanese driver for the AlphaTauri squad, and Verstappen's lead is 1.4 seconds still.
Of course, I meant undercut range rather than DRS range, being 1.5 seconds away.
Yes.
For Leclerc, and he's still there. So this now pit stop from Tsunoda. AlphaTauri drivers had a pretty ropey first 12 laps, dropping from the top 10 down towards the midfield. 2.6 second pit stop though isn't bad for AlphaTauri, and that might just start the run of pit stops in the midfield, which will allow the front runners to take a pit stop and not emerge into traffic.
Lap 12 of 57, the first ever Miami Grand Prix. The former Renault F1 driver Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gow, unfortunately for her, in the pit lane with 31 degrees the air temperature here. Very, very warm day in Miami, but Max Verstappen is keeping his cool at the moment. Took the 2nd place off the line, then he managed to take the lead, and Leclerc goes too deep into turn 17, loses a lot of ground to Verstappen on this lap then, coming through and out across the line. That mistake from Charles Leclerc cost him a second, and now the gap is up to 2.6.
Leclerc's got a pit. He's struggling. That's why it's the front right lockup that he had. That's why Verstappen got suddenly so close as well into turn 1 where he made his move. Leclerc was really struggling through the left-hander at turn 17. he's got to come into the pits, because now he's 2.5 seconds away suddenly. He's lost a full second with that, and now he's barely within undercut range. So for the strategy, for Ferrari to have any answer to Red Bull, they've got to roll the dice here, I think, and pit Leclerc, because at the moment he's on a hiding to nothing, saving tyres for later on. But against who? His fight's surely with Verstappen still.
Leclerc's only 2.2 seconds ahead of Sainz. Then it's 1.5 seconds from Sainz back to Perez. Kevin Magnussen is in the pits now for the Haas team. He goes onto the hard tyres and makes his way back out on track. So he's might even be trying to undercut Lando Norris here in the fight over 9th place. I think that's what Magnussen is trying to achieve. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Here's Verstappen's radio.
Yeah, tyres full of right.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job on the front right. Keep looking after it.
And that's Red Bull saying, we're very happy with how your tyres are looking, Max.
And it was the front right that Leclerc was locking up then into turn 17, and he is damaging it all the way. And he's just dropping further and further away from the race lead. If they want to try and win this race, the only way to do it now is to just force the issue and the strategy, pit, and risk a bit of tyre degradation later on, but take the track position back if you possibly can.
So just having a look at what they're trying to do out there. Magnussen came in after 13 laps. Remember, this is 57 laps around the Hard Rock Stadium. He went onto the hards. I think he'll have to change again at some point in this race between lap 30 and 40 and take another set of hards if he's got them. If they haven't, they can go onto a medium at around lap 35 to 38. So let's see what they start to do. But this is going to be an interesting way that this filters down and out in the strategy calls.
George Russell has now passed Daniel Ricciardo, so he's got him into 11th place. A few pit stoppers shuffling Russell further up the order. But he is the race is starting to come to him now on the hard tyres that he started on in that Mercedes. The order at the moment is Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Bottas the top 5, Hamilton 6th, Gasly 7th, Alonso 8th, Norris 9th, Schumacher 10th, and none of those drivers have made a pit stop yet. Just having a look at George Russell, and it was Ricciardo was just really wide coming through turn 17 on the dirty part of the track and had no grip at all.
He almost hit the wall, Daniel Ricciardo, I think. Waved George Russell through, but it was a mistake that caused it into the final corner, the one that Leclerc had his lock-up, and Ricciardo doing something similar allowed George Russell, the simplest of passes, back to 11th place on his hard tyres, remember, for George Russell.
Just having a look at who's got what tyres. It's Perez and Verstappen at Red Bull only have one set of hards, two set of the mediums, whereas Mercedes and also, more importantly, Ferrari have got it the other way around. So they've got two sets of the hard tyres and only one set of the mediums. So that's going to force people into certain strategy calls if this is a two-stop.
So we are planning to go to plan D for Delta, and hard as expected.
So that's Charles Leclerc's radio. We're expected to go plan B for Delta and hard as expected.
Plan B for Delta. Nice one.
Well, unless he said D for Delta.
Yeah, no, I imagine that's what Delta means, Jack.
Oh yeah, okay, fine, sorry.
Bravo would be B.
You're welcome.
So
no, but I thought he was saying plan B for the Delta, i.e. to make the difference, to make the gap or something like that.
Interesting.
Why use a phonetic alphabet and then just say the letter? Just say plan Delta.
That's what you sometimes do, don't you? And then you realise, oh, maybe that wasn't very clear. Either way,
anyway,
I think they might be trying to look to the two-stop. All of the top 4 on the last lap, their personal best. Verstappen did the fastest lap of the race. Leclerc actually was only 1,000th away, and he's stabilised. He's about 3 seconds away from Max Verstappen now. Sainz was 2/10 down on the top 2, and then Perez was actually half a second down on the top 2, but they were all personal best laps, so the tyres are not dropping too badly for the top 4 at the moment. They can extend this, and I think they're now looking to try and go towards a one-stop.
Verstappen is on a quick lap, though. Right now he comes across the line and he takes 6/10 out of Leclerc on that lap. So the gap goes from 2.7 to 3.3 seconds between Verstappen in the lead and Leclerc in second on that one lap alone. Now it's 3.5 seconds. Sainz is 2 seconds back. Perez 1.5 seconds back. Hamilton has got to 2 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas. It was 3.5 a little bit earlier on. Gasly 7th, Alonso 8th, Norris 9th. Russell now in 10th place because the other Haas of Mick Schumacher has pitted, Jenny.
Yes, and just listening across to George Russell's radio and his Mercedes race engineer saying you can now push as hard as you want. Temperatures are under control.
Trouble for Fernando Alonso, I think, in the pit lane there. That looked like quite a long stop. 5.7 seconds for the Alpine, and that is going to cost him an awful lot of time, and he's going to come out. He's just going to get clear air in front of the Aston Martins. The Aston Martins who are battling with Nicholas Latifi. So he's still come out in front of Magnussen, although that's going to be a bit of trouble for Magnussen and Schumacher after they pitted early. They're about to join the back of this three-way fight between Stroll, Latifi and Vettel, which is currently over 14th, 15th and 16th. So might not work out superbly for the Haas cars because no one else really jumped into the pits. Lando Norris still staying out there. Latifi is under big pressure from Sebastian Vettel as they come down into the left-hander of turn 11. Vettel goes to the outside, Latifi to the inside, onto the brakes. They both had DRS. Vettel tries to go right around the outside at 11. That's a very nice try from Sebastian Vettel. He's still there on the inside, actually. The two almost bang wheels, and Vettel gets the job done. That was a nice little bit of racing, but this is where it's going to start costing Kevin Magnussen, because suddenly he is bulked up behind Nicholas Latifi. But nice move that from Vettel.
Yeah, really good stuff. Fair racing from the two of them. Gave each other just enough space, and then Vettel had the inside for the long turn 12, the right-hander. Finally got the move done. So the Aston Martins recovering from their pit lane starts for having fuel issues before they could get to the grid. Magnussen now passes Latifi very, very easily, and Gasly comes into the pits. That's to cover off Fernando Alonso, who was so close to Gasly early on, spent the whole 17 laps or 15 laps behind him, tried to undercut, but then had a really poor stop, 5.5 seconds. Gasly's just covered him off.
That's 17 of 57. That's a fuel issue. Was reportedly they cooled the fuel too much, so it was therefore too cold, so they had to wait for it to heat up, and that's why they couldn't go out and onto the grid. We are on lap 17 of 57. Max Verstappen leads the Miami Grand Prix, 3.5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in second, 2.6 seconds back to Sainz in third. Perez is pretty close this time, actually, might almost be within DRS range as they come out over the start-finish straight in a moment. So Perez is picking the pace up a little. Hamilton was 2 seconds behind Bottas. The gap's now gone up to 3 seconds in fifth for Bottas and 6th for Hamilton. But here comes Perez now. He is within a second of Carlos Sainz. We'll see if he gets the DRS range. The Red Bulls are very, very quick in a straight line as they come through the left-hander of turn 4, then right at turn 5. Really quick sequence of corners, and then I don't think Perez is quite going to have DRS as he gets on the power out of 9 down the first of the long straights, and he's not. So Perez still settling in 4th place at the moment, but trying to get within that range of Carlos Sainz. It's quite a long game everybody's playing here. It's usually the leaders that it feels like it's usually the leaders that are the first to pit, because they're all just trying to undercut each other or cover off the undercut or be moderately defensive in their strategy, but they're still going out there, even though we thought pit window might be about lap 12.
Well, they're cautiously heading towards a one-stop, all 4 of them. I'm surprised that neither Ferrari or Red Bull have switched one of their drivers to do something a little bit different. Perez stuck behind Sainz. Leclerc passed for the lead by Max Verstappen 10 laps ago, and he's now 3.5 seconds behind the race leader. So he's not dropping too badly. He did lose one of those seconds in one corner. So Leclerc's actually done his personal best on the last lap. He's actually maybe even improving on that this time around. So he's still got some tyre life, just a 3.3 second gap to the race leader. Sainz is doing a solid job, also 3.3 seconds back from his teammate. And then it's Sergio Perez who's the man in 4th, putting pressure on the other Ferrari then for 3rd place.
It was a technical problem for Zhou Guanyu that it means he is out of the Grand Prix. Everybody else is still running. The sound you can hear is Sergio Perez, who at the line was just 1 second behind Carlos Sainz in front. But into the pits now comes Lando Norris. So the McLaren comes into the pits from 7th position. So Russell is now promoted up into that 7th place, but he's yet to pit. So I'm interested to see where Norris comes out compared to Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, because Magnussen came in a few laps ago. Not a super fast stop for Lando Norris there.
He's going to be racing, well, potentially with Fernando Alonso. No, Alonso's gone through, but having pitted a little bit earlier. Alonso was ahead of Norris, but had that slow stop, and Norris is going to come out right with those Aston Martins that Alonso faced as well, and he's in between the two of them, behind Fernando Alonso still, but ahead of Kevin Magnussen,
But for how much longer? Because Zach Magnussen sends it to the inside into turn 4. That was mad stuff from Magnussen. He bailed out of it in the end, but he's got a real opportunity here at getting ahead of Lando Norris up the inside into turn 6, 7 and 8. Very nice stuff from Kevin Magnussen, and he does get ahead. They pitted a few laps earlier, the Haas team, and now Magnussen has made the move. So that is going to be, what, a net 8th place, I think, for Magnussen, but they're still racing as they come down the second straight in towards the left-hander of turn 11. Vettel covers the inside. Not quite sure why Vettel needs to be racing that hard against Magnussen, because he hasn't pitted yet, Sebastian Vettel. Here's Perez's radio.
I'm losing power, man.
We're looking.
I'm losing a lot of power.
Yeah, we're looking into it.
He's 6 seconds.
What's going on?
It's all looking good. Power unit's all looking good. You see the power loss?
I'm losing power, man. I'm losing power. How can you say it's good?
You've lost the toe. You've dropped back and lost the toe.
Man, I'm losing power. Look at my straight line. I'm losing 3 seconds per straight. The engine is gone, man. I'm losing 4 seconds per straight.
And there's a yellow flag out there as well. One of the McLarens is in trouble, but that was a very straight... It's Norris. So did Norris go wide, maybe, all by himself down at turn 17? But Perez is definitely in trouble. The team's saying it's all fine. He's 7 seconds off the back of Carlos Sainz. He was 1 second before. The team's saying, oh, you're just out of the toe. What are they on?
It's a ridiculous comment back to the driver. So Perez is feeling it. The team should see this on the telemetry straight away, that there's something up with the power unit. He's just lost on that last lap 4 seconds to Sainz. And this is the sound of Norris. He just got it too deep into 17, and he almost hit the wall. It's just, as soon as you go wide there, it is like an ice bath. You're just going straight towards the wall, and he had to almost stop the car just to not actually crash there, Lando Norris. So that's allowed Mick Schumacher through. It's an error from Norris, and that pit stop phase hasn't worked for him.
Leclerc has just had a bit of a lock-up into turn 1. Perez is coming into the first corner, so that last lap, he only lost 1.7 seconds.
Keep going. We're doing all we can. We're looking at it. Fail 5-0. Fail 5-0. Fail. Okay, power unit's looking good from our side now. All good for you?
Yeah, I think it's back.
Okay, so Perez, after doing fail 5-0, which presumably is something you press on the steering wheel.
Yeah, steering wheel settings to try and override maybe a sensor that's shutting down some power then on the Red Bull power unit. More reliability issues for Red Bull. It's taken Perez out of the fight now at the front. He's 7.5 seconds away from Carlos Sainz as we're getting towards the crucial pit stop phase.
Max Verstappen leading the Grand Prix. Kevin Magnussen has just been fighting with Vettel and almost went off the... Well, he did go completely off the circuit there. Can't quite work out why Vettel's fighting so hard with the Haas driver. It's fun. I'm sure it's fun, but surely it's costing himself time. But there we go. Max Verstappen did the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. His lead is 3.6 seconds. It's now up to 4.1 seconds. Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, alongside me, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gow in the pits.
Yes, it's hot, by the way. I'm just going to have a look at Perez, because I spoke to Christian Horner at the beginning of this race saying about reliability. It's been a problem for Red Bull. They've had problems this weekend. They've had problems at other races. They're going to desperately hope that they can resolve this issue for Perez, and that it's not something that could be race ruining or terminal.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's in a fairly comfortable 4th place, even if he... What lap time's he doing now? A 34.6. So I'd be surprised that if he's 7/10 off and everything's fine, but it is manageable now, seemingly.
I think it seems to be reset. That's at least not too bad. That is almost the difference you'd expect from the slipstream then, on the straights if it was 7/10, but a big slipstream. But it at least seems to be stabilised for Perez. 7 seconds away from Sainz now. 8 ahead of Bottas. Magnussen, the latest driver to go too hot into turn 17, still hunting down Sebastian Vettel for 13th. But that's going to be points for Magnussen once everyone else pits.
That 22 of 57. Verstappen leading, 4.5 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc in second place. Third is Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, 4 seconds back. 7.6 seconds back to Perez in fourth. Just getting a replay of Magnussen's moment, and just the back end went as he turned into 17 there.
Yeah, he didn't quite get onto the real slippery stuff on the outside of 17. At least he managed to make it towards an apex before losing it, rather than just going in too hot and getting right out onto the icy part of the track. Icy in 30-degree heat.
Yeah, another fastest lap of the race for Max Verstappen. He takes another 3/10 out of, well, 4/10 pretty much out of Charles Leclerc, so the gap is now up to 4.6 seconds at the line. Carlos Sainz in third did his personal best lap of the race, so they're still pushing on these tyres. They don't seem to be having to overly manage them. Mercedes are coming into the pits now with Lewis Hamilton, so he's dropped back to 6.8 seconds back from Valtteri Bottas, and now he's coming into the pits.
His lap times have been quite erratic in the last few. He's dropped a lot of time compared to Bottas. He's coming in. He did report damage to the left rear from that tangle with Fernando Alonso earlier on. He seemed to be okay. 2.7 second pit stop. That's a good job from the Mercedes team. He seemed to be okay once he cleared Gasly and Alonso, but Bottas remains elusive for Hamilton, and he's come into the pits, presumably going through those tyres a little bit quickly.
And he comes out just in front of Daniel Ricciardo, who is yet to pit. So Verstappen is the leader of the Grand Prix here in Miami, lap 23 of 57, so we're approaching half race distance. We'll be, I imagine, going for another 40 minutes or so, maybe 45, something like that. And Hamilton is running in 7th place, having made a pit stop. Verstappen leads 4.6 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Then it's 4.5 seconds to Sainz in third and Perez in fourth. So is this now just a competition between Verstappen and Leclerc in the Red Bull and Ferrari respectively to see how long they can drive for on these tyres, basically?
Well, on the face of it, Ferrari seem a little bit stuffed because they're slower than the Red Bull, and both of them are going still longer into the race on these medium tyres. Leclerc's actually just done the fastest lap of the race on that last lap, 1/10 quicker than Max Verstappen and only half a tenth quicker than Verstappen's best. He's got pace in there, but again, he's a little bit inconsistent with it, whereas Verstappen is just like a metronome at the moment, popping in the laps, lap after lap, and he's just extended the gap to 4.5 seconds. It's not bad for Leclerc. Sainz is now nearly 10 seconds adrift of the race leader, so he is just dropping away as well, and the top three just generally spacing out. But the problem is we're getting towards the pit window, and Leclerc's just not close enough at 4.5 seconds back. Red Bull has the pace, and it has the tyre life at the moment. What we don't know is whether it has the reliability, which is going to be in the back of everyone's mind, I think, at Red Bull, especially given what's happened to Sergio Perez, who's now 8.5 seconds back from Carlos Sainz.
Lap 24 of 57. Max Verstappen coming out of the left-hander of turn 16 and heading down the back straight again on his medium tyres that he's been on since the start of this Grand Prix. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just looking at the tyres, from Pirelli, they said that they expected the pit window. Team Radio Leclerc.
We need the car is so difficult to drive.
The car is so difficult to drive, says Leclerc. Do carry on.
Thank you. We were expecting them to come in from lap 12 to around 18 for the pit window. Now, clearly, they didn't have a huge amount of information when it came to these tyres as the team for Ferrari come out into the pits. And I think they've gone longer than they thought they would. So this could change, as you said, into a one-stopper.
Charles Leclerc in then. Charles Leclerc into the pits. The medium tyres go off. The hard tyres go on. It's a bit slow getting the right rear off, but overall not a woeful pit stop. 3.2 seconds, about 7/10 slower than a solid time. But what's that done for Ferrari, really? They've just kind of pitted, and then Red Bull will keep driving around and pitting a bit, and then it's done. There's nothing sort of particularly aggressive about that from Ferrari, which, when you consider Perez is there in 9 seconds behind Carlos Sainz, felt like there was something more that could have been done. I don't know what.
It's a cautious approach from Ferrari, which you don't need when you're behind. They could have maybe chanced it a little bit more, but from 4.5 seconds back, this has got to be some mighty outlap from Leclerc or a terrible inlap from Verstappen, who surely will pit at the end of this lap to just cover off the championship leading Ferrari, and then they're snookered to the end of the race. Then it's just about, can Leclerc find more pace and balance on these hard tyres he's just switched to.
Nicholas Latifi is fighting with Yuki Tsunoda over 18th position. I think Tsunoda has pitted and Latifi hasn't. Yes, indeed. So, in fact, that's Tsunoda getting ahead of Latifi. But Verstappen leads. He's 10 seconds ahead of Sainz now. Perez in third, Leclerc in fourth, set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix a few moments ago. He's on his outlap, and his outlap compared to Verstappen as he comes through the middle sector, he's a tenth of a second slower in the middle sector. So there's nothing doing here for Leclerc.
And Verstappen doesn't even pit, doesn't even feel the need to cover off the Ferrari just yet. And that'll help him even more for tyre life in the second half of this Grand Prix. So it's looking very good for Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Ferrari, they waited a very long time to pit Leclerc, and he's pitted into a bit of no man's land. He's pitted early enough to go onto a one-stopper and get to the end, but not really put any pressure on Red Bull. Jenny?
Just wondering, do they need to put pressure on Red Bull? OK, yes, for the race it's exciting, but actually for the championship, points-wise, yeah, he'll drop some points, but he's 27 points in the lead coming into this weekend. Consistency, reliability, don't go too crazy, just collect the points, keep on going. Is that a possibility?
Well, I guess the comparison is Imola 2 weeks ago, isn't it? Where go for sort of a bit more of an aggressive strategy, make a mistake, lose a load of points. Playing it safe, Ferrari.
But it was a driver error last time. It was nothing to do with the strategy.
Look, I agree, but
you can't. 27 points ahead after 4 races. There's 19 races to go. You get 7 points difference per race. It's going to be 4 races. He'll be behind Verstappen if he's just accepting defeat like this. And Ferrari are just going conservative. They've only really got to beat Sergio Perez. The rest of the field are further back. I think they're just a little bit in no man's land. They don't quite have the pace or the consistency, and they haven't rolled the dice really with the strategy to do anything else.
Verstappen into the pits now then from the race lead, and we'll see how far ahead he emerges of Charles Leclerc. Into the pits now, off go the mediums, on go the hards. Red Bull traditionally very quick, and a 2.4 second pit stop, and the Red Bull makes his way to the exit of the pit lane and gets back out on the track. He's still going to come out, I think, just ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez as they come into the first corner. He is still, even though he's made a pit stop. So Carlos Sainz is in the lead of the Grand Prix now. Verstappen is in second, but Sainz has yet to pit. The BBC's chief F1 writer, Andrew Benson, has texted me saying, Red Bull are clearly just faster. What are Ferrari meant to do?
I just wonder if they could have gone for maybe try a 2-stop or try and do something different, pitting Leclerc earlier when he was within range to maybe force Red Bull into a 2-stop, or try and mix something up. Especially now they've got Perez beaten with that engine issue. You might as well lose trying to do something right, because they're not going to be beaten by Bottas or anyone else, and they've got 2 Ferraris there behind Red Bull.
At 27 and 57.
That pit stop from Verstappen was really good, though, or from Red Bull on Verstappen's car. 2.4 seconds, and now he's got a big lead over Charles Leclerc. He's even extended it through that phase.
That 27 and 57. Sound you can hear is Carlos Sainz, who is in the lead of the Grand Prix. Leclerc is setting the fastest lap of the race on this tour as he comes down the back straight. And Ferrari, are they getting ready for Sainz? Yes, they are now. So now the Ferrari squad heading out into the pit lane for another pit stop, this time for Carlos Sainz, the race leader, or temporary race leader. And if this goes all to plan, it should be fairly straightforward. And Max Verstappen will resume the lead of the Grand Prix. It's slow for Sainz. It's very slow for Sainz. I think I heard him then get away. 5.4 seconds. So that might have just brought Perez a little bit back into the mix with Sainz. He's still dropped quite a way back, but he has gained a couple of seconds in the pit lane there.
Leclerc's now 7.5 seconds away from Verstappen. He was 4.5 when he pitted. So in that phase, he's lost another 3 seconds, one of which was in the pit stop itself. And Ferrari not having a good pit stop to Carlos Sainz either.
I think it was front right for Carlos Sainz.
Didn't go on properly, the front right. He had to wait and lost 3 seconds there. That's going to bring Perez closer, and Perez is 5 seconds away from Sainz. So that now is a fight for the remaining second half of the Grand Prix.
Just having a look at that Perez pit stop, it wasn't ultimately fast either, 3.1 seconds, which is about a second off what their fastest time down at Red Bull could be. So Sainz slow with a 5.4, Perez a little bit slow with a 3.1.
Verstappen back in the lead of the Grand Prix, 7.4 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Then it's 9.8 seconds to Carlos Sainz in third, 5.1 seconds to Perez in fourth. George Russell is in 5th place in the Mercedes, but he is yet to pit. If he were to pit now, he would lose quite a lot of ground, actually, George Russell. He'd emerge sort of with Stroll, who hasn't pitted, but sort of Kevin Magnussen kind of territory, which I guess is broadly to be expected. Bottas is 6th, Hamilton is 7th, Ricciardo is 8th, Ocon is 9th, Ricciardo and Ocon also yet to pit, and Pierre Gasly is 10th. So still a bit more shaking out to come in the rest of the Grand Prix. In the middle of the pack anyway.
Couple of consecutive fastest laps for Charles Leclerc, but he's only 0.2 quicker than Max Verstappen. So Verstappen now can just think about saving the tyres. The hards, that should go easily to the end of the race. The mediums nearly did half the distance, so the hard tyre, the more durable tyre, should be okay. Just got to try and stroke it home now with no mistakes. There's a long way to go, though. Is the Ferrari going to be more competitive on the hard tyre? That's going to be a question then. And if so, then maybe Leclerc can come back into play later on in this one. He wasn't happy. He was inconsistent on that medium tyre, making mistakes, sometimes very quick, and then sometimes just dropping up to a second a lap with small driving errors that were punished by the track being pretty dusty offline.
Lewis Hamilton saying the tyres are already overheating. He's 6 laps onto his hard tyre run, and that's the report from Hamilton at the moment. Leclerc was faster than Verstappen on the last lap by 0.2 of a second.
So Lewis, when we get a bit of tyre wear, the overheating does improve. It's what we saw on George. So just need to get a bit of gauge off.
When we get tyre wear, it doesn't overheat as much.
When you wear down the rubber, you have less sort of bulk on the tyre to keep the temperature in. So you actually just wear it through, the tyre's thinner, and the temperature sort of dissipates a little bit more. It's a problem when you go to races where the temperatures are really cool. You lose the rubber off the tyre as you just pound round on a hard tyre, and the temperature goes and the grip goes. But here the temperatures are so hot that the tyres are on the edge of overheating, so actually wearing through some of the rubber can help to cool the tyres.
Just getting a replay of Hamilton coming down into turn 11, and a big lock-up on the left front for Hamilton, and that will have costed. That was a couple of laps ago now, I think, because that last lap he wasn't particularly slow. He kind of matched Valtteri Bottas on the last lap, so it must have been the lap previous, lap 30 of 57 in the Miami Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. We've got Stephen Nolan coming up after the conclusion of this Grand Prix, which Max Verstappen is leading by 7.7 seconds, and it's one of those where the gap sort of came out of nowhere. It was suddenly it was 1.2, 1.5, suddenly went to 3, and then suddenly the pit stops happen, and it's 7.8.
And it's looking very comfortable for Verstappen at the moment. 7.5 seconds over Leclerc in a car that seems to be its equal at the least. Verstappen is just done the fastest lap of the race, 0.4 quicker than Leclerc on that last lap. He's looking good. Magnussen trying to put a move on Lance Stroll, down towards turn 11, goes to the outside.
Onto the brakes, and Stroll holds the place for the time being, goes in quite deep. Oh, almost a touch on the front wing there of Magnussen onto the rear tyre of Stroll. These Aston Martins keep pounding around on these hard tyres, having not yet made a pit stop. Took Magnussen quite a while to get ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and now he's struggling to get past Stroll as well. And if anything, Vettel might be closer to Magnussen than Magnussen is to Stroll at this point. Stroll 12th, Magnussen 13th, Vettel 14th, Schumacher 15th.
They're actually quick, the Aston Martins. They started from the pit lane, they've done 31 laps on these hard tyres, and they're actually holding pace with Alonso. Vettel dives to the inside of Kevin Magnussen at turn 17. He hasn't pitted Sebastian Vettel, Magnussen has, and Magnussen now has Mick Schumacher for company coming down towards the first corner. The Aston Martins are going well. Vettel's enjoying the fight.
Into the pits finally comes Daniel Ricciardo off the medium tyres, the last driver to pit from the mediums. I think Mick Schumacher won't attack Kevin Magnussen too hard as they come down into turns 2, 3 and 4, because it was a sort of concocted manoeuvre earlier on to allow Magnussen ahead of Schumacher. That was a sort of a team move, so I think Schumacher will stay sitting in behind, but suddenly they drop down behind the Aston Martins. Ricciardo comes out in 17th place behind Alex Albon. Albon has pitted, so Ricciardo not having a great afternoon.
McLaren not having a great afternoon. Norris is still down in 15th, having had a slow stop, then got mired in the Aston Martin Magnussen battled on his outlap, made a mistake, and Schumacher came through for good measure as well. 15th for Norris, 17th for Ricciardo. Other drivers have to pit, but it's been a tough day so far for McLaren.
Jenny.
Yeah, I think McLaren was saying that this track doesn't really suit their car. Maybe it's a little too warm for it, and they've struggled with this weekend, but let's see what they can do. And just as it stands at the moment, if it finished like this, Charles Leclerc would lead the championship still for Ferrari with 104 points. Verstappen would score 26 points. He currently has the fastest lap. He'd have 85 points, so 19 behind in the battle for this championship.
At 32 of 57, Verstappen leading the way. All of a sudden now, Magnussen and Schumacher, have they both got back ahead of Vettel? Yes, and Stroll has disappeared up the road. Magnussen is actually defending from Mick Schumacher, and then joining the fight is Vettel in 14th and Norris in 15th position, having started in 8th, wasn't it, Lando Norris? So that's a frustration. The gap at the front is Verstappen leading by 7.9 seconds, then 11.7 back to Sainz in 3rd, Perez 4th, Russell 5th, still yet to pit. And actually Bottas in... has Bottas pitted in 6th place?
Yeah, Bottas pitted, he's covered off Hamilton. 3.5 seconds, the gap between the former teammates. Yeah, just says he hasn't on the timing screen, so that's what confused me for a moment, but he definitely has. Sound you can hear is Lando Norris trying to fight the cars around him. Lap 33 of 57, obviously a lot of messages coming in on hashtag BBC F1 that maybe this isn't the most thrilling of Grand Prix. Is that down to sort of circuit design? Is that down to the nature of one car just has more pace than the other and that's how it works? It's a little bit of that, but Imola wasn't the most thrilling of Grand Prix, or Melbourne, when the fastest car is at the front and the slower car is just behind in terms of the victory battle. This is what happens. Charles Leclerc didn't really defend for Max Verstappen, though. That's what he allowed Verstappen through. He had track position and then just didn't cover the inside. And so Verstappen had an easy run to the lead.
We're going to get ourselves up to Stroll.
If he blocks like this, it won't work.
So that's Schumacher being told on the radio we're going to get ourselves up to Stroll. So Mick Schumacher is 13th, Kevin Magnussen is 12th, Stroll is 11th, 4 seconds up the road. And I presume they're saying, like the olden days in go-karting, let's sort of work together and kind of slipstream each other. But it's almost like they need to let each other through when they have the DRS to try and catch up. But that's what Schumacher's saying. It's not going to work if he blocks me like this. Jenny.
Yeah, just listening across to Kevin Magnussen's radio as well. He was told, come on, Kev, we know you're quicker than Stroll. Close the gap. Mick followed you through behind.
Yeah, so we'll see what Magnussen does. He's in 12th place at the moment. Verstappen leading the Grand Prix here in Miami. 7.4 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. 13 seconds back to Sainz. Perez on that last lap pretty much matched Carlos Sainz's lap time. George Russell still running in 5th position. 2 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton did a personal best on that last lap. Got down to 3 seconds and behind Bottas, so that's something he's going to try and make a move on the Alfa Romeo driver, but he hasn't had the pace to do it all of the Grand Prix so far, as Max Verstappen continues to lead as he comes through the tight, twisty section on lap 34 of 57. Vettel is close to the back of Mick Schumacher this time as they come down into turn 1, has a little look to the inside, Vettel, but not able to get past still. 7.4 seconds though, Verstappen's advantage at the front. Although having said that, Leclerc did the fastest lap of the race on that last tour, half a second quicker than Max Verstappen, but I can't imagine that progress continuing quite like that.
It was a great lap from Leclerc, much faster than Verstappen had done. Max just raises his pace in the Red Bull at the front this lap. That's a personal best, but he's still a chunk away from what Leclerc did on the last lap. But this lap, Leclerc loses half a second to himself. So inconsistency in the lap times for Charles Leclerc. His best lap is as good as anything that Red Bull can do. But Verstappen is just much more consistent with 35 laps in. Leclerc's got a few that are quicker. Many are on a par, but then just some, he's just dropping pace. And that is where we've got a 7.5 second gap from. Some of it in the pits, 3 seconds in the pit stops. One of that was actually in the stop, the others was in the in and outs, and then just dribs and drabs of little errors from Charles Leclerc that's just added and mounted up to a 7.5 second gap to Verstappen.
The order is Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Russell the top 5. Russell hasn't pitted. Bottas, Hamilton, Ocon is in 8th and hasn't pitted. 9th is Gasly, 10th is Alonso. 11th is Stroll, yet to pit. Magnussen and Schumacher 12th and 13th. 14th is Vettel, yet to pit. And then Norris, Albon, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Latifi, the 19 drivers. Joe retired a little bit earlier on, and they come down towards turn 1, and once again Mick Schumacher is kind of nosing to the inside of Magnussen, so it's got good pace here has Mick Schumacher, but Magnussen's still there ahead in... Oh no, they've swapped Schumacher up into 12th, Magnussen into 13th. I didn't spot that, my apologies. Jenny Gow.
You know what this race needs? It needs a safety car, doesn't it? Or a bit of heavy rain. It just needs something. You feel like it needs something to just group everybody back together.
Vettel's off at 9, and that's lost him a place to Lando Norris. Just got out wide coming through. It was turn 6, 7 and 8 that he got out wide, locked up, kept it out of the barriers, but that has allowed Norris through, and he now will try and attack the Haas drivers in front. But yeah, it's fairly status quo, this Grand Prix at the moment.
Few darker clouds ahead. We're a little bit hopeful there that there might be a sprinkling. Maybe just for the commentary box, it looks like it's slightly darkening, but there's a low chance of rain, really, isn't there, at this stage? Better.
There's a low chance of rain now?
Yes.
Okay.
Vettel got a little bit wide then at turn 8, and Norris dived straight through. That looks all right, doesn't it, the weather?
There's a little bit of rain on the radar, about 8 minutes away. A little bit of rain, maybe.
That's Sebastian Vettel being told there's some rain 3 minutes away.
The low chance of rain. I saw it out the window.
Yeah. I doubt it'll be arriving, though. We'll wait and see. Lap 36 of 57. Verstappen did a personal best on that last lap. Still slower than Leclerc, still slower than Leclerc's best lap, but it's just not quite enough. And as you were saying, Leclerc was saying earlier on, the car is so difficult to drive, and that's kind of what we're seeing, is that the pace is in there, but Leclerc just can't get it out consistently, the pace.
Exactly, that's the small mistakes, really. And
yeah,
the Red Bull is just finding the pace. Verstappen is finding the pace just more easily than Leclerc, it seems. Maybe he's got an extra tenth or two if he absolutely gave it some, which he looked like he did towards that pit stop window. And then apart from that, Leclerc can put in some decent laps, but then he just drops away on others. And that fastest lap that he's done a few laps ago, he's not been able to match it, whereas Verstappen's still just chipping away at his own best lap, 32.7, 32.7, 32.6. He's just like a metronome out front, doing a great job.
Lap 37 of 57.
Why don't we just keep going and see if there's a BSC or taking over the way?
So, Russell saying, let's just keep going. Just keep going around and see if there's and just wait for a safety car. Because at the moment he's in 5th place, 20 seconds or so. Well, the thing is, he's got a shot of getting into the points if he pits now, Russell.
Oh, he's going to be in the points, Russell. He's ticking along really nicely.
Yeah.
His pace is much better than Gasly, Alonso, and they're 9th and 10th. That's where the gap's going to open up for George Russell, who started 12th. And he is just out there in 5th place, hasn't pitted, nor is Esteban Ocon in 8th. Ocon, who didn't qualify yesterday, started from the back. Those two in the top 10 haven't pitted and are just going and going and going, and their tyres are hanging on. So the one stop looks like it's fairly easily the right way. So to be fair to Ferrari, that's probably why they didn't try and roll the dice or anything earlier on.
Tony D says on hashtag BBCF1, can you get some Miami Vice references into the commentary?
What's Miami Vice?
I've never seen any Miami Vice.
Nah,
I will admit it. You are aware of it?
The name rings a bell.
And they wear don't they wear jackets with like their sleeves rolled up a little bit? Like shoulder padded jackets and the sleeves rolled up a bit.
Who's they?
The people in Miami Vice.
Okay.
My producer's saying Don Johnson in my ear, but I thought he was from the Eagles. Who's the guy in the Eagles? Exactly. So no, I'm afraid we won't be doing any Miami Vice references. Lap 38 of 57. Also, JJ Jackson says, surely this is the sort of race Jack thinks we need every now and again to appreciate the real corkers. I have said that in the past, that you need the odd boring 0-0.
And then they come around and you're scouring the sky for some dark clouds to try and add a little bit of spice to it. No, we like the corkers. This one, not so much at the moment. Still 20 laps to go. Russell hoping for a safety car. Christian Horner looking at the sky off the pit wall.
Yeah.
A little what do you call that? A slight grimace. Grimace, yeah, that's what I was going to go for. It's clouding over, Jack.
Don Henley is the guy from the Eagles. Says Jane. Oh yeah, and then he did Boys of Summer, didn't he?
That's California, though, isn't it?
Yes. No, I'm not saying. We don't need to get bogged down in that. We've got a motor race going on. 39 of 57. Verstappen leading 7.7 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. 16.3 seconds back to Sainz. Perez is dropping away, I would suggest. On that last lap, he was a second slower than Carlos Sainz. So Perez doesn't really look like he's in the fight. Russell actually took 2/10 out of Perez on that last lap on these hard tyres that are still going. Russell's having a, I know we mentioned it a moment ago, but he's having a really tremendous race, to be honest. To be on 38-lap-old tyres and going quicker than the Red Bull in front.
I think Perez just lapped Latifi.
Okay.
And that's why he had a particularly slow lap. Perez, it's a shame for him that he just had that couple of laps of some engine issues, and it's just ruled him out of that fight. He was staring at the back of Sainz's Ferrari for the first third of the race, and then lost a heap of power and lost 6 seconds or so. Alonso into the side of Pierre Gasly at turn 1. Gasly's got a problem here. I think he's got a puncture on the right rear.
Yeah.
Alonso went for the inside. It was a little bit of a late move, and they did touch into one.
Pierre Gasly suddenly looks as though he's back up to speed. They were fighting over 9th position, which will become 7th, I think, once Russell and Ocon pit. But it looks as though Gasly has managed to get going again. Leclerc sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Alonso, well, I'm not 100% sure he was trying the overtake there.
I think he closed the door in the last minute.
Well, okay, he was then, but he came from so far back, Alonso. That was ambitious.
It was like his move on Hamilton on the first lap, just sticking a nose in right at the last minute. That one's on Fernando Alonso. Usually a fantastic racer, but twice in this Grand Prix, he's just been chucking a nose in as if his car's bulletproof, and it has been so far. Twice he's managed to have contact with another car. Twice he's got away with it. There was no investigation at all on the Hamilton one, and Hamilton repassed him after that lap 1 touch. This touch was heavier. Gasly's lost out to Lance Stroll as well, and of course the place to Fernando Alonso, who will have just been so frustrated at spending 40 laps behind the AlphaTauri. Finally, the AlphaTauri's so quick on the straight. Finally, Alonso just thought, I've got to give it a go. I'm close enough into turn 1, and he just had a sort of half-hearted little glimpse of the inside of turn 1. Only really got his front wheel alongside Gasly's rear wheel. Never committed enough to actually have the corner, I don't think, there. Gasly turned in and the contact happened.
Lap 40 of 57. Max Verstappen leading the Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc in second place. Carlos Sainz in third. Fourth is Perez. Fifth is Russell, but he's yet to stop. Bottas is sixth. Hamilton seventh. Ocon eighth has yet to stop. Alonso ninth after that contact. Gasly has just got back ahead of Mick Schumacher, although they're still side by side actually, coming down through turns 8 and 9, and there's a crash and a big spin, and it's a huge moment on the back straight for Lando Norris. He's going to be out of the Grand Prix, colliding with the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. There is now going to be some form of safety car, probably a full safety car, and the Miami Grand Prix might have just woken up, even though it's over now for Lando Norris. Not even sure really what happened. They just ended up getting into each other down the straight a bit weirdly.
Yeah, Gasly there was fighting with Norris and Schumacher in the Haas. Gasly then has dropped back from that touch with Alonso. Has he got more of a problem? And that's why he's lost out further. And this is perfect for George Russell. Comes straight in the pits there for Mercedes. He called it right from the cockpit. Let's just see what happens. He'll switch onto a new set of mediums, and he might take a big gain from this. But a really odd accident there for Gasly and Norris, effectively on a sort of slight swerve in the straight.
He's going to end up seventh here, George Russell. Here he comes out of the pit lane, and I think he's just going to remain in 7th place. So suddenly 6th and 7th, and Norris has climbed out of his car. I don't think he actually hit a wall. They hit each other. He went spinning around. I don't think he actually made contact with the wall. His race is run. It wasn't a particularly successful race anyway for the McLaren team. We're about to get a replay of it. So Gasly coming through turns 4 and 5, and he sort of went wide and kind of lost power or something. I don't know, that was a bit weird. Then he was suddenly offline into 7 and 8. It's like he's trying to... Has he got a mechanical and he's trying to get out of the way of people or something? And then just a really odd collision with Lando Norris, as Norris sort of thought he was past him, moved over to the right. But was Gasly having problems there?
You know what, for Gasly, it's almost like he's got a really heavy steering or something, like Max Verstappen complained of yesterday, and he's struggling to turn the car. That, or he's got no front end at all. Then they have a really silly collision with Gasly just sort of coming across slightly as Norris was there. On board with Norris, Gasly's off the road and doesn't really accelerate out the corner. He's clearly got some level of issue. Norris has more space to the left. Gasly has plenty of space on the right.
I'm out, boys. Yes, mate. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
I think in the end it's just a really silly coming together from the two of them. They both have plenty of space. Gasly does move across to the left. Norris doesn't really move with him, is blasting past at some speed. Probably it's a little bit more on Gasly because he's the slower car at that point.
Now, Perez pits. Perez has pitted and put on a set of medium tyres. He was the driver who could take the gamble. The full safety car is deployed, and Perez, is he going to come out in front of Bottas? Yes, but only by half a second or something like that. So Perez is in a reasonable position here. The thing is, the safety car's come out and everybody's a bit relieved that something might now happen in this Grand Prix, but it's only really Perez that could take advantage of anything. He came onto the medium tyres. The top three are still going to be on the hard tyres that they have been on since the pit stops began. We'll get a few racy folks further back. Esteban Ocon coming into the pits as well. He had yet to stop, hadn't he? And he's gone onto the soft tyres. We'll give you a full rundown in a few moments, but without wanting to downplay the tension necessarily, it's still going to be kind of status quo for Verstappen and Leclerc.
Well, again, I'm surprised that Ferrari weren't a little bit more punchy in that strategy. They've got two cars there to try and win the race, and they will be on the back of Verstappen, but they could have gone for a soft tyre there. Yeah, they would have lost track position to Perez, but on a soft or a medium, you'd back yourself surely to come back past a Red Bull on a used hard tyre. Two of them to try and work together to, or even just pit Leclerc and have a bit of team orders with Carlos Sainz. They're just a little bit nothingy, and now both Ferraris are going to be really vulnerable to Perez because he's had the pit stop. Red Bull have been punchy, put him on a new set of mediums.
Okay, Max and both Ferraris have stayed out.
It's a great chance for Perez.
Old hards. The race is on.
The race is on indeed for him. Ferrari I feel like they've just been a little bit passive through this race on strategy. And Red Bull, they did have the free pit stop to do it. It was an easier choice for them. We'll see how much those new tyres can benefit Sergio Perez in an attack on the two Ferraris. Carlos Sainz will be first up from on 15-lap-old hard tyres. Charles Leclerc on 18-lap-old hards. The hards are hanging on really well, but the mediums should just have a little bit more grip.
Safety car deployed here in the first ever Miami Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. And myself, Jack Nicholls, the former Renault F1 driver Jolyon Palmer, and Jenny Gow with you for the coverage for another, well, till the race is finished.
And we have one more chance to pit if you think you want to do it.
So you tell me, man. Don't leave it to me. Do you think I can? I don't want to lose a position.
Okay, recommend staying out. So staying out.
I will lose this position to George for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So that's Hamilton discussing with the team. He's currently in 6th place, saying, look, you tell me, if I pit, I'll lose the position to George, his teammate, Russell, but would he also lose out to Alonso and Schumacher and Ocon? Probably not. So that's an interesting decision there from Hamilton and Mercedes.
Well, I think he was saying he will lose the position to George now that Russell is pitted, is on a new medium, 18 laps fresher, and is just right behind him. The strategy, the safety car, has not worked out for Lewis Hamilton. Hasn't worked out for him all year, these safety cars. And once again here, George Russell, like he did in Melbourne, benefiting from it. He's on a new medium, and it has really played into his hands, the timing of the safety car. He can go and attack Hamilton and Bottas and see what he can get out of this race.
Fernando Alonso was given a 5-second time penalty for causing that collision with Gasly a little bit earlier on. He hasn't been to the pits again, so that'll be added to his race time. Jenny Gao.
Yeah, and just so you were aware, when you come in under a safety car or a virtual safety car to do your pit stop, it's usually about 21, 22 seconds, but under these conditions, you can come in and get it quite cheaply. So it only takes, say, 16 seconds to come in, change your 4 tyres and get back out again. And that's why it's such a golden opportunity for George Russell. He was able to come in, make up loads of time, and it was exactly what he wanted. And as you guys have already said, he's been very fortunate when it's come to the timing of safety cars and all those sorts of things, starting on the right side, the better side of grids, things like that. He's having a very fortunate start to this season.
Mick Schumacher's having a solid race, having a 9th place, gained 6 places from where he started. Esteban Ocon started at the back of the grid and has now got up in 10th place, again fortuitous with the safety car a little bit. Lando Norris is making his way back down the pit lane. No other big gainers so far. On lap 44 of 57. And we're just waiting for the safety car to come in. Basically, there's some debris out on circuit on the exit of turn 8 up through 9, 10 and 11. And that's what they are waiting for the marshals to clear. Everybody now gathering up to the back of the safety car as they come through that sequence of corners.
Lance Stroll benefited as well, hadn't pitted, now goes on to a medium tyre, and he's had a good race, Lance Stroll, qualified in the top 10, now takes a cheap pit stop in his 12th. Kevin Magnussen also pitted in the Haas, down to 13th, and Alex Albon now is up in 11th.
Just thinking about Charles Leclerc and the restart of this, can he, I mean, he's obviously going to try and go for it and try and get the race lead, but that Ferrari just doesn't seem to have the pace. So can he realistically challenge Verstappen for this race still, or do you think it's a done deal?
He's got a chance at getting back ahead of Verstappen. We're on lap 44 of 57, so we'll see whether 45 or 46 laps gone will get the restart. So if there's only 10 laps left and you make the move at the restart, you've got a shot at holding on for 10 laps.
Oh, absolutely. The hard tyres, they are quite durable. The mediums for Perez and Russell will be better to the end of the race, but the hards should be okay. They'll warm up a little bit slower, but it's still very hot out there, so that shouldn't be a big issue for them. It's a sweaty time for Verstappen underneath the safety car, having just driven around for over an hour now, in command of the race. Suddenly he's got a Ferrari just behind him, and he's got a bit of work to do.
Safety car still out then.
Another look at that incident. I think it is more on Pierre Gasly. He just didn't really turn enough around that the sort of bend on the exit of turn 8 that just drags you up towards the turn 11 straight. He just sort of washed wide into Lando Norris. I think Lando's probably more the innocent party in that. And it looked like Gasly had a big problem. The way he just drove off the road 3 consecutive corners and then didn't accelerate off the corner as well. He had that touch with Alonso, which Fernando Alonso has been penalised for. He's in the pits now, or he's been through the pits and he's down in 16th, but he's still going. I wondered if it might be something even more terminal, the way that he was driving just before that crash.
Yeah, not a good day for AlphaTauri. The lapped cars may now overtake the safety car. Cars 10, 6 and 22. That is Gasly, Latifi and Yuki Tsunoda. Of course, the unlapping behind the safety car has been clarified, those rules, after something went down in Abu Dhabi last year. We're just getting a replay again of that moment on board with Gasly. And he just seemed to really struggle to get into the right-hander of 5, and then he was not, it didn't look like...
Problem car doesn't turn.
He was on the radio, did you hear it?
Yeah, that was amazing.
He was on the, problem, the car doesn't turn, and you hear the crash of Norris and the screech of tyres as Lando comes flying through. braced for a big impact, but he just skittled down the road and didn't hit the wall, thankfully. So Gasly not really aware of his surroundings then. On the radio, you literally could hear him go, oh, as if he wasn't aware that there was a car coming through. And he did just wash slightly wide into Norris coming past. But he had a car that wasn't turning very well as well, which wouldn't have helped in that instance.
So, safety car still out on circuit. It'll be... they've got to wait for the lap cars to be released, which they have already done. And it won't be coming in quite this lap. So we're going to have about 12 laps to go, 11 or 12 laps to go when the safety car comes in. They're all still aggressively weaving, even though the safety car's not coming in. How important is it to keep the temperature up sort of the whole time? If you lose too much, is it then impossible to get it back?
It's difficult to work it back on a hard tyre. Remember, George Russell at the start of the race lost position at the start on the hard tyre. If you've got temperature, you can keep it in a little bit more easily, but to lose temperature and then regain it is tough. That's why the drivers, the top three, all still on that hard tyre. So is Bottas in 5th and Hamilton on 6th. They're all on the hard tyre. They've been on that tyre for a long time. And we heard already when the rubber starts to wear down, the tyre temperature is a little bit more sensitive to cooling. That's what the drivers are going to have now. So watch out on the restart for those on the medium. They should have maybe a bit more heat in their tyres and a softer compound as well. That's Perez in 4th and Hamilton in 7th. Russell in 7th.
Michelle Obama just gone into Mercedes. I wonder if they've made a mistake in not pitting Hamilton there. We will find out at the restart, I suppose, and over the next few laps.
Well, the thing is, either way, he'll lose out to Russell, and that's sort of it. I don't think Alonso and Schumacher are going to be challenging him. Safety car coming in this lap. I'll just give you the order. Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Bottas the top 5. Hamilton, Russell, Alonso, Schumacher, Ocon the top 10. Albon, Stroll, Magnussen, Vettel, Ricciardo the top 15. Gasly, Latifi, Tsunoda, the 18 drivers. Norris and Zhou out of the points. And I think Gasly will be coming in to retire at the end of this lap, I believe. So, yeah, Pierre Gasly into the pit lane and out of the Grand Prix. Safety car ending.
Rear right for Gasly, I think that's why he's coming in. That is as a result then of the Fernando Alonso contact earlier on. He was having a decent drive, then was hit by Alonso, lost places, ran wide, clashed with Norris, and it's all ended in this for Gasly and Norris.
Right, they're coming down the back straight next to the river on the right-hand side, the huge Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Dolphins NFL franchise on the left-hand side, and they're coming down into the hairpin left-hander at the end of the back straight. When is Max Verstappen going to go? He's weaving from left to right. The Ferrari of Charles Leclerc will try and follow him. They're all on the hard tyres. Perez in 4th is on the medium, so that is going to be the car that will be most on the attack, you'd have thought, Sergio Perez. Verstappen still weaving as they come into the left-hander hairpin now. Leclerc right underneath the rear wing, and there he goes. Verstappen floors it, and Sainz has got a really bad run. Sainz has got a really bad run coming out of turn 17, and that gives Perez a perfect opportunity to exploit his new tyres as they come down into the first corner. Sainz to the inside in the Ferrari, Perez to the outside in the Red Bull. Sainz gets it stopped and manages to hold the place. Valtteri Bottas is looking racy in behind Sergio Perez, and Verstappen holds the lead though. Leclerc in 2nd, Sainz in 3rd, Perez 4th, Bottas 5th. Vettel has got ahead of Ricciardo. Stroll's in a bit of trouble. He's lost some places in the first couple of corners, so that's frustrating for him after the Aston Martins were showing good pace earlier on. But here comes now Carlos Sainz out onto the first of the long straights, and it looks as though Perez isn't quite close enough yet. There's also no DRS at the moment for the next couple of laps, but Verstappen has got a perfect breakaway up at the front.
Only 6/10, Leclerc's right with him halfway around the first lap, into turn 11, now into the tight, twisty section, and then they'll go on to the next long straight. Perez had Sainz exactly where he wanted him, on a medium tyre, Sainz on a used hard, lacking tyre temperature, squirming, wheel spinning out of the hairpins, had to defend right to the inside on all the dirty stuff, and still Perez couldn't make the move on his fresher medium. So Sainz has got a reprieve, but Perez the Mexican and the Red Bulls just half a second back in fourth.
It was Magnussen and Stroll that came together at the first corner. Perez is covering the inside a little bit, coming down into turn 17, which is basically the final corner. Did Verstappen going a little bit deep there? No, I think he's got away with it. Perez has got another great run on Carlos Sainz here. The sound you can hear is the Red Bull man. 10 laps to go in the Miami Grand Prix. Verstappen leads just half a second ahead of Leclerc, but Perez doesn't quite have the drive to get up to the back of Sainz. The fight over the final podium spot, Leclerc's really close.
Sainz looking in his mirrors into turn 1 as well, slightly thinking about a defence, which he doesn't need to do from there, and that'll only allow Perez to stay closer through this part of the lap, turns 4 to 8, past the corners where Gasly went wide and then clashed with Norris, and then they're going to get on the gas. Here goes Leclerc, it's so close, Jack.
0.6 of a second between them. He's still not going to get the DRS. It's not activated just yet, but Leclerc is looking in a strong position now. They're coming into turn 11. 0.6 between them, but it remains about that. The Red Bull is so quick in a straight line that even with the slipstream, the gap remains about the same. Sainz still ahead of Perez in third and fourth. Hamilton is within 0.8 of Valtteri Bottas. Russell is just half a second behind his Mercedes teammate as they come into the left-hander of turn 11 and then right through 12. And Perez now will start to get the DRS at the end of this next lap. Still Leclerc is just within a second as they come down towards turn 17. Perez is closing in on Sainz in that fight for third spot. Not close enough to do it into this hairpin left-hander just yet.
They need the DRS. Leclerc is desperate for it before he drops away. Sainz is so slow through that turn 17. Again, Perez gets really close as they drive towards the line, sweeping through 18 and 19. Sainz has got tyre wear then on his hard tyres and he can't turn into that left-hander. That's where Perez, at the very least, is going to have an opportunity this time around.
Lap 49 of 57. Verstappen and Leclerc sprinting away from Carlos Sainz in third position. The DRS is now enabled, so Leclerc needs to stay within a second of Verstappen if he wants to try and use that on this lap. The sound you can hear is Sergio Perez in the Red Bull coming down through the long tightening left-hander of turns 6, 7 and 8, and now Perez is going to close in up through the gears. 190 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, 205 miles an hour, almost up to 207 as he gets onto the brakes into the left-hander of 11. So late on the brakes, and he's right behind him. So close between them. Leclerc's only 0.7 back from Verstappen as well.
He's going to get the DRS again. Sainz a little bit wide into the chicane. Perez is so close, putting him under big pressure.
It's also the two Mercedes that are right together. Russell was almost into the back of Hamilton there in their fight over 6th position, so a bit of a twitch from Hamilton. That could be an opportunity as they come out down towards turn 17. Verstappen holds the lead. He's 0.8 ahead, 0.6 ahead of Charles Leclerc, but is still in front at the moment. Perez thinks about a late dive. Russell goes to the outside of Hamilton. The two Mercedes wheel to wheel into turn 17. Hamilton holds the place. Bottas has gone wide, and Bottas has thrown away his position. Bottas losing out, got wide into turn 17. Hamilton is 5th, Russell is 6th, Bottas into 7th place. Messy error from Bottas, but Charles Leclerc on that last lap set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, lap 50 of 57.
0.4 quicker than Max Verstappen. He's going to get DRS again here, and he might have a chance to overtake the Red Bull man that's looked so good and dominant through this race. Verstappen passed Leclerc quite straightforwardly in the first 10 laps, but in the last 7 laps, it's going to be role reversal, 0.6 between them, and Leclerc will open the DRS.
This is a really big opportunity for Leclerc coming down into turn 11. He's closing in on the back of the Red Bull. The two championship protagonists, 1st and 2nd. And Leclerc sends it into 11, and he can't quite do it. And he's dropped back now. Maybe looked a little too far back, and that compromised his run through, and now he's dropped to 0.7 behind Verstappen as they come up through the chicane. But he's going to be close again as they come out onto the back straight, onto the power. DRS will open for Leclerc. This is going to be another great opportunity for the Monegasque driver, the championship leader, to try and get ahead of Verstappen. Down into the left-hander. He's too far back this time, but I can't believe how much pressure he's putting him under. Russell is ahead of Hamilton now, so Russell is up into 5th place, Hamilton down into 6th, and under pressure from Valtteri Bottas, but Bottas doesn't make a move. Alonso's in 8th, 9th is Schumacher. Ocon was going for a move on Schumacher there, coming into the hairpin. Did he manage to get ahead? No, not quite. Schumacher still in that 9th place. Ocon down in 10th. Across the line, Verstappen leads. We're now on lap 51 of 57. Closing stages of the Miami Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. And it is Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc fighting it out for the win again.
I don't think Leclerc didn't need to show that nose, did he, into 11. That's what dropped him back, but he's back with Verstappen again. I don't know if Verstappen can break away with Leclerc just solidly in his DRS, but 3 times each lap he's closing in towards turn 11.
Gets onto the brakes. No nose showing this time for Leclerc. Perez still not quite able to get ahead of Sainz, but he's close this time. Closer than he's been at any point. They're coming down into the left-hander of turn 11 now too. Is Perez going to be close enough to make a move? No. Sainz in the Ferrari holds on to that 3rd spot. Hamilton down to 6th. George Russell is in 5th position. But it's the 2 race leaders that once again are nose to tail coming into turn 17. But the Ferrari of Sainz looks like it has more straight line speed than Perez. Perez, even in the DRS, doesn't actually seem to have that much of a closing speed. He gets there sort of towards the end.
The DRS opens really late into turn 17.
True, yeah.
That's all that one was. Now he's really close, Sergio Perez, through the final sweepers. Then he might even have a run at Carlos Sainz. It's such a short straight, though, into turn 1. That's the closest he gets. Whoa, he sends it, and there's almost contact. They might have banged wheels. Sergio Perez sent it from miles back, went for it, doesn't pull it off. Sainz holds on to 3rd place. Meanwhile, Leclerc is close behind Verstappen again. Verstappen is setting the fastest first sector of the race. He's pushing so hard to try and keep Leclerc behind him, but that was mightily ambitious from Sergio Perez. He was a long way back, almost pulled it off. Now, was there contact here down into the first corner? No, but I don't know how there wasn't. 10 out of 10 for effort for Perez, 10 out of 10 for awareness for Sainz. Just paper's width between them, and they got away with it.
And Leclerc's right on Verstappen again. Down into turn 11, there's just 2 tenths between them. I think Leclerc might have shown another nose there, but he hasn't lost as much ground as he did previously. They bounced up through the chicane. Oh, he took a lot of curb on the way in, but he's as close as he's ever been now, Charles Leclerc. Lap 52 of 57. 5 to go at the end of this one, and this could be the opportunity. The gap has gone up a little bit, though, to 8 tenths of a second as they come down towards turn 17 again. It feels like it's turn 11 where Leclerc gets the best run and gets close, but not quite close enough.
He absolutely hoiked it over the curb at turn 14. It was shades of Imola all over again for Charles Leclerc. Saw the glory and almost stuffed it in the wall as he did that time around, and that just cost him a few tenths there, and he couldn't attack into 17. Again, the DRS opens later into turn 17, which means he doesn't get a big closing speed until halfway down the straight. The better chance then could be, as you say, into turn 11. We're onto another lap, but he did just drop back by a couple of tenths on that one.
Yeah, 9 tenths back now from Max Verstappen. Verstappen has had to work hard for this one. It didn't look as though he was going to have to. It looked pretty straightforward for the Red Bull man, but now he's under a huge amount of pressure.
Strategy's not been kind to me, really.
Yeah, copy, Lewis. Another safety car.
Hamilton saying strategy's not been kind to me. He lost out to George Russell because of the safety car in Australia. Same is true here this afternoon. But the focus is on the battle at the front. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc absolutely flat out. And this is a tremendous end to the race. I love watching these two flat out, a second between them, just chasing. And even if there's no overtake in the end, I love the chase.
He's trying so hard, Leclerc. He really is. The gap now is just at 1 second. Verstappen has almost broken that DRS, but as they come down towards turn 17, I think Leclerc's still going to get it. No, he doesn't. No DRS for Charles Leclerc. This time down towards turn 17. So it's a chance for Verstappen maybe to just stretch his legs.
Perez has dropped out of DRS range as well from Carlos Sainz in 3rd position. The gap has gone up to 1.1 seconds. Leclerc does sneak back into DRS range. So less than a second between them still, but he needs to work on hauling that back in. Ocon has just got ahead of Mick Schumacher and up into 9th place, although he's now dropped down to 11th. So there's some mischief going on for 9th, 10th and 11th. Hamilton's just got back ahead of George Russell as well in their fight over 5th position. lap 54 and 57 in the Miami Grand Prix. And there's a yellow flag out there as well, and the first corner, and Vettel is dropping down the field. Track is clear now, but something's been going on down in the first corner. Verstappen and Leclerc right together, but Leclerc has just dropped out of DRS range again. Huge pressure this, though, for Verstappen. He's doing a stellar job.
Has the main threat just dissipated a little bit for Charles Leclerc? Just dropped away from that 1 second, the magic 1 second that would give him DRS, and Verstappen now can just get his head down, not worry so much about the mirrors. But the pressure is just intense, isn't it, for a Grand Prix win? A driver that's second in the championship needs all the points he can get. Any mistake and he's going to be in big trouble.
Okay, so Schumacher got ahead of Ocon at the hairpin, and then Vettel went past both of them, and then coming down into turn 1, Esteban Ocon in the Alpine was trying to follow Schumacher through. Schumacher sent it to the inside of Vettel. Oh, quite a heavy hit. Vettel just turned in.
Which gap was that? I didn't see that. And that's it, I guess.
Big hit with Schumacher and Vettel.
That was a battle for ninth as well. No points.
I mean, that's clearly my corner.
That's a pretty racing incident. He won that one, I think. But Schumacher, he sort of had a right to go for it. Vettel probably should have seen him coming.
And they're such good mates, aren't they?
Yeah.
Vettel and Schumacher. But for the first time in their career, come to blows. I think 50-50. That one, unlike the Alonso one, he had more of his car along the inside there, did Schumacher, and I think Vettel probably should have given him a bit more space. There was at least half the car alongside the Aston Martin, and Vettel just turned in, and the contact was a lot bigger than Alonso's with Gasly.
That incident is under investigation. We're on lap 55 of 57. Schumacher into the pits. A shame that for... well, this has now got Albon up into 10th place again. He just keeps turning up, Alex Albon, doesn't he? It's absolutely remarkable. He's been running at the back all day ahead of his teammate Nicholas Latifi, but then when push comes to shove, Albon's always there. It's quite... whether he gets a point or not is moot. He might be finishing 11th, but he's always in the mix.
He's doing a cracking job for Williams. Consistently decent, consistently trying to haul that car towards the points. And he's 3 laps away from a second point of the season, having done the same in Melbourne. Only 1 pit stop for Albon. Didn't pit under safety car, unlike a few others, unlike Daniel Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda all dropped down. Albon stayed out there, and at the moment it's looking good.
Lap 56 of 57, the penultimate lap of the Miami Grand Prix. We're getting a look at George Russell and Lewis Hamilton still fighting over 5th place, and Russell is back ahead now and into 5th position. So the Mercedes very much being allowed to fight it out. But race leader Max Verstappen is 1.6 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc now. That Leclerc challenge has just ebbed away, I think.
And it was lap after lap, wasn't it? So close for so many laps, into turn 11 particularly. Even had half a look on a couple of occasions, but not able to quite commit to an overtake, and Verstappen could just hold on. He's done a great job, Max Verstappen, so far today. Penultimate lap of the race, and he is just stretching his legs. It's hard to say he wouldn't deserve this one. He's been tremendous, but Leclerc's given him a real fight in these last 10 laps.
Lap 56 of 57, we're about to start the penultimate tour of this brand new 5-kilometre long Miami International Autodrome. And Max Verstappen is going to come across the line. Magnussen has just dropped down a few places now, so he's been involved in a fight with Ricciardo and Stroll, I think. But Verstappen now is on the final lap. He's either won or retired so far this season. It looks like it's going to be the former, and it looks like it's going to be 2 race wins in a row for Max Verstappen as he comes now through the quick corners of 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, tightening up through the left-hander. Took the lead, well, took second place down into turn 1. That made his race. He was able to chase down Leclerc. Leclerc couldn't put up any fight, and Verstappen is going to chip away at Charles Leclerc's championship advantage. It'll come down to 19 points, less than a race win between them as we head to the Spanish Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. The crowd are on their feet for Verstappen as he comes around the right-hander of turn 12. Now left and up the hill through the tricky chicane, but no such problems this time. Leclerc's backed off. It's 3.2 seconds between them, and Verstappen, I think he was going for the fastest lap here on the final lap. He was due to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix until he came into the chicane. He's absolutely demonstrating, ultimately, what is dominance today. Through the final corner at turn 17, out onto the start-finish straight, and Max Verstappen wins the first ever Miami Grand Prix. He takes the checkered flag, he closes in on Charles Leclerc's championship lead, the gap down to 19 points. Once again, Verstappen and Leclerc were wheel to wheel for the win, but it's Verstappen, the reigning champion, that comes out on top in Miami. Leclerc second, Sainz third, Perez in the Red Bull in fourth position. Russell finishes fifth ahead of Lewis Hamilton in sixth. Bottas in seventh place, eighth for Alonso, eighth for Ocon, ninth for Alonso, and 10th and a point for Alex Albon. A superb performance from him ahead of Ricciardo, Stroll, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Latifi and Schumacher, the 16 finishers. But no complaints for Verstappen today. A deserved race winner.
And the race win, Max. What a recovery. Fantastic. P1.
Yes! Oh, what a race, Leeds. That was nice. Tough one, but really good.
Well done, mate. You really made that work. The pass and those last laps behind after the safety car came in. Well done for hanging on with there. So, yeah, and you got fastest lap. Well done.
Yeah, awesome job, guys. Good recovery for the start of the weekend, so we can be really proud of that.
He did have to work hard in those closing stages.
He had to work hard all weekend, and what Red Bull are alluding to on the team radio there is Verstappen barely did any laps on Friday. It's a new circuit. He needs to learn where the corners go, where the curbs are, what you can take. And he was on the back foot after Friday. He blamed that a little bit for his mistake at the end of qualifying, where he had an oversteer and lost pole. But he's made up for that today. A good start, an aggressive first corner to go around the outside of Carlos Sainz. Really just committed there, knew he had to separate the Ferraris and did. And then actually a quite straightforward pass on Charles Leclerc for the lead in the first 10 laps. The harder part for Max was the last 10 and holding off Leclerc, who was solid as well today, fought Max Verstappen all the way towards the end, kept him under pressure, but Verstappen didn't crack. Back-to-back wins, we've got a championship on our hands.
Yeah, we certainly have. We're just getting a replay of Kevin Magnussen. Oh, big hit again with the Aston Martin. I think that was Stroll coming down into turn 11. And they both just sent it firing it in.
That's a Stroll classic there, just turning in when there's someone on his inside. He's had a good race, but you can't be turning in when there's someone there.
Well, there we go. That answers that one. The top three now making their way around. The championship gap down to 19 points. The Red Bull looks strong. Here's some radio.
And that's P5. Great drive today. Oh my, nice recovery again. Sorry for yesterday, but points are rewarded today, and we got some good ones. Nice work.
And that's another top 5 finish for Russell. Still the only driver to have finished in the top 5 at every Grand Prix.
Somehow from 12th position, and a pole start, and an average first half of the race, he's managed to get back there. Helped a lot with the safety car. He's getting some breaks at the moment, George Russell. He is doing a tremendous job at Mercedes as well, running Lewis Hamilton very, very close, even ahead at times. And he's managed to beat his teammate again. But for the second time this year, maybe even the third time this year, strategy's really helped him out compared to Lewis, who's lost out today, and Melbourne, and Jeddah with the safety car timing.
Ferrari now lead the Constructors' Championship still, 157 points.
I think I need a drink, mate.
Good man.
I think you also need a drink.
I think we all need a drink after that one. That was Max Verstappen's radio. Red Bull with 151 points now, closing the gap to just 6 points between them.
Verstappen climbs out of the car. A bit surprised Perez couldn't get on the podium.
I thought Perez would make far more inroads than he did. Russell at least managed to pass Hamilton and beat his teammate by 3 seconds in the end, having the medium tyres on. thought Perez could do the same, particularly when Sainz was so out of shape on the restart. Gifted him the golden opportunity to try and come through. Sainz did cover the inside, but Perez in the end just didn't have quite the pace to get close enough in the braking zones. He tried it from a little bit back, and that was his one chance, and he blew it really with a big lockup. But I thought he'd be more of a feature there.
Any disappointment for Ferrari, do you think? Obviously they haven't won, but did they realistically have a chance?
I think they had a chance. The car was almost a match for Red Bull, and they was 1-2 on the grid. When the pace of the Ferrari and the Red Bull was that close, and you start with 1-2, I think they could have won the race. If they'll look back through and say, well, Red Bull was the faster car, but Verstappen did start third behind 2 Ferraris, and he beat them, passed them both in the first 10 laps, and the pace was so close between Leclerc and Verstappen. It showed when Leclerc was within a second of Verstappen, Max couldn't just blast away from him. I think, first of all, Leclerc was a little bit soft in defence early on, and the strategy was maybe just slightly, not the punchiest, it was maybe conservative, and second and third, potentially all they could have got, but just they were conservative today, Ferrari.
Verstappen, I must say, looks very, very warm after that Grand Prix. Air temperature 30 degrees, the track temperature still up at 41 degrees. We're going to hear from our top 3 now, starting with Carlos Sainz, and the interviews hosted by Willie T. Ribbs, the former Indy 500 racer.
Welcome to Miami.
Thank you.
Great job.
Nice and warm.
Yeah? How was the car and the tires, and how are you physically?
I've been better. Obviously, after the crash from Friday, I still had a bit of a neck pain going into a race, but I had to manage it, and I fought through it, especially with Checo at the end on the medium tire. It was very difficult to keep behind, but we managed to keep the podium, which is a decent result.
Well, I saw you could race. You could race them, right down into the hole down there. And did you get what you wanted out of the tires here, given the heat?
It wasn't easy at all. It's been a tough race with the tires, with the heat. The car was moving and sliding a lot, but in the end we got what we deserved, I think, and which is a decent P3, and we can build it up from here.
Hey, this is the biggest event in the world right now, and you're on the podium. Great job, baby.
Thank you. I want more, but it's not a bad.
Right.
Thank you.
That was Carlos Sainz speaking to Willie T. Ribbs. Now it's going to be Charles Leclerc, the second place man.
Charles Chuck Leclerc. You and Verstappen have been rumbling with each other since you were kids on go-karts. And you put on another great show here. How are you feeling physically? How's the car, chassis-wise and tires?
Well, it was a very difficult race physically. We struggled quite a bit with the medium tires, especially in the first stint, and got overtaken there, and then it made our race a bit more difficult from that moment onwards. On the hard, we were very competitive, and towards the end, I thought I could get Max at one point, but yeah, today they had the advantage in terms of pace. But it was fun, and it's amazing to see so many people again. I kept saying it, but yeah, it's great to have so many Ferrari fans too in the grandstand, so thank you for your support.
Well, you and Max are going to put on a show on every race in this World Championship. I can't wait to see more. Put on a great show.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, we need to keep pushing. Upgrades will be very important throughout the year, and I hope now that we can do a step up from next race onwards. But yeah, it's been tight since the beginning of the season, and that's what we would like to see.
Awesome job, baby. Awesome job. All right, champ. Hey, Muhammad Ali told me when you're champ, Christmas Day is every day. It's another Christmas. Welcome to Miami.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it was an incredible Grand Prix. Very physical as well, but I think we kept it exciting until the end.
Well, you're strong. I mean, you went hard on the car. I mean, you kept the tires underneath you. Plus, I mean, you're in good shape, son. You're ready to get in the boxing ring.
I think I'll stick to racing, but I appreciate a lot, of course, boxing. Felt a bit like it out there in terms of how we feel right now, but yeah, incredibly happy with winning here in Miami. It was yeah, an incredible Sunday for us.
Well, the whole world is celebrating. The whole world is celebrating.
Thank you.
Miami, baby. That was Willie T. Ribs with the questions to our top three. It was Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz. Wasn't at all. It was Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, and Max Verstappen. Verstappen winning the first ever Miami Grand Prix. And the gap at the top from Charles Leclerc comes down to 19 points. I think everybody struggled in the sunshine. The heat has been excessive. The driver's now having a drink and trying to recover. We shall recover for the podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe and download the Checkered Flag. We'll give you an update a little bit later as well on the website, so make sure you look there. And thank you so much for joining us. We go again in a couple of weeks' time in Spain for round 6. We're expecting to see more upgrades, more battles, more intensity. As I said, this has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Thanks for joining us. And next up it is Stephen Nolan. Follow that.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And thanks to the team of Miami. What brilliant coverage of tonight's Grand Prix.